The radio should have been loud. That's what I remember first. Not the fear, not the message, just the silence where sound was supposed to be. 2:13 a.m. The clock on the dispatch console blinked like it was tired of staying awake. I was the only one in the station. Night shift usually stayed quiet in our county. Too quiet most nights. But tonight felt different, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the radio light flickered. Unit 7, report status. Nothing came back. I leaned closer. Static hissed softly, like a sleeping animal shifting in its sleep. I tapped the mic once. Unit 7, respond. Still nothing. But the static, it didn't stop. It thickened, like it was listening. I checked the system log. Unit 7 was active. GPS showed them on Route 9, about 12 miles out. Routine patrol. Nothing unusual. No weather alerts. No incidents. Just there, but the radio stayed silent. I pressed the mic again. Unit 7, this is dispatch. Do you copy? That's when the static changed. It wasn't random anymore. It formed a rhythm. A pause. A breath. A pause again. Like something was learning how to breathe through the radio. I froze. I remember that feeling clearly. That moment when your brain knows something is wrong before your body accepts it. Then the radio spoke. Not clear. Not clean. Broken. Copy. My hand tightened on the console. Unit 7, confirm your status. A long pause followed. Too long. I checked the clock again. Still 2:13. No change. Like time itself didn't want to move. Then the voice came back. It's quiet out here. I exhaled slowly. Relief, maybe. Just a bad signal. A delay. Roger that, Unit 7. Continue patrol. But something about the tone didn't sit right. It wasn't the officer's voice. At least not fully. There was something layered under it, like another voice trying to speak through his. I opened unit profile again. 2 officers assigned. Deputy Cole and Deputy Ramirez. Both seasoned. Both reliable. Neither prone to jokes on duty. I tried again. Unit 7, report location. Static returned instantly. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt crowded, like too many breaths in a small room. Then, we're still on Route 9. The voice was clearer now. Too clear. I looked at the GPS. Route 9 was empty. No movement. No stops. Just a single blinking dot moving at normal speed. But the radio voice didn't match that comm data, because I could hear something else under it now. Footsteps inside the transmission. Slow, crunching gravel, like the mic was sitting on the ground. I stood up without realizing it. Unit 7, confirm you are mobile. Silence again. Then the voice returned, softer this time. We didn't stop driving. My stomach tightened. That's when I noticed the first log anomaly. The system showed a brief disconnect. Just 1 second. At 2:11 a.m., before I even started talking to them. But that wasn't possible, because I only called them at 2:13. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Then the radio clicked again. This time closer. We hear you in the station. I turned my head slowly toward the empty room behind me. Nothing there, just rows of chairs. Filing cabinets. The faint hum of fluorescent lights. But the radio wasn't done. You're alone. My breath caught. That wasn't a report. That was observation. I whispered without meaning to. Unit 7, are you seeing me? A pause. Then something I didn't expect. A sound. A chair scraping. Not from my room. From inside the radio. I pulled the headset closer, pressing it tight against my ear. The static surged again, louder now, almost painful. Then the voice returned. But it didn't answer my question. Instead, it said something else. You shouldn't be at the console. I stepped back. The chair behind me creaked. Slowly, like something had just leaned forward in it. My heart started beating harder. I told myself it was stress, fatigue, night shift tricks, the mind playing games when it's tired. But the radio didn't give me room to believe that, because now I heard 2 voices at once. Deputy Cole and something else speaking through him, overlapping. We passed mile marker 13. We passed it again. My fingers went cold. Route 9 didn't have a mile marker 13. Not on any map. I pulled up the digital overlay again. Zoomed in. Checked county records. Highway logs. Nothing. No marker. No curve. No reason for that number to exist there. But the radio repeated it. Again and again. Each time slower. Closer. Like it was walking toward me through sound. Then the GPS that on my screen flickered. For half a second, it stopped moving. Then it moved again, but in the wrong direction. Away from Route 9. Toward the station. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back. No! I whispered. That's not possible. The radio responded instantly. It is... No hesitation. No delay. Like it was waiting for me to notice. My throat went dry. I grabbed the mic again. Unit 7. Verify your position immediately. Static exploded through the speaker. Not noise. Pressure. Like something pressing against the inside of a wall. Then, we are closer than you think. I stepped away from the console now. Slowly. Carefully. Because the room suddenly felt smaller. Like the walls had shifted inward without me noticing. The fluorescent light above me flickered once. Just once. And in that single blink of darkness, I heard something that made my entire body lock still. Breathing. Not through the radio. Not through the headset. From behind me. I didn't turn. I couldn't. The radio whispered again. Don't look away from us. My fingers tightened into fists. Every instinct told me to run. To leave the station. To shut everything down. But the GPS screen kept glowing. Route 9. The dot was now only 6 miles out. Moving toward me at patrol speed. Still marked as active. Still marked as normal. But nothing about this felt normal anymore. I forced my voice out. If you're near the station, identify yourselves. A pause. Then the voice answered. And it wasn't just one anymore. It was both officers. And something between them. We are Unit 7. We are still driving. And we already passed you. The last words made no sense. Because I was inside the station. Locked. Doors secure. No vehicles had arrived. No alarms. Nothing. But the radio wasn't finished. It never was. The static softened again, almost gentle now, like a lull before something worse. Then the final sentence came through. Clear. Close. Too close. You just haven't turned around yet. The lights above me flickered again. Longer this time. And in that darkness between pulses, I realized something was standing right behind me. Not touching. Not moving. Just waiting for me to confirm it existed. The radio stayed open. Alive. Breathing with me. And somewhere far out on Route 9, the GPS dot stopped moving entirely. Right at the station's location. Right at mine. The radio shouldn't have been talking anymore. That was my first thought when I saw Unit 7 still active on the system. They were supposed to be gone. Off-grid. No signal. No movement. But the dot on my screen was still there. Alive. Shifting. Breathing in slow, wrong patterns across Route 9. Like it didn't understand what missing meant. And then the radio clicked. Not static this time. A voice. Dispatch! We're still on patrol. My fingers froze above the console. Because that voice was Deputy Cole. Or at least it sounded like him. But there was something off in it. Like his voice had been stretched too thin. Pulled through miles of empty air before reaching me. Unit 7 confirmed location, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. A pause followed. Long enough for me to start doubting I ever heard anything at all. Then, we're passing the same trees again. I leaned closer to the screen. Route 9 was clear. No curves. No loops. No forest dense enough to pass again. Just a straight line through open county land. But the GPS, it flickered, jumped, reset, moved backward 10 miles, then forward again, like it couldn't decide where it belonged. I swallowed. Unit 7, you are reporting movement inconsistently. Confirm your position. The radio hissed softly, not static, something slower, like a breath dragged across fabric. Then Ramirez spoke, except it didn't sound like he was speaking to me. It sounded like he was speaking while running. "We're not turning around," he said. "I swear we're not turning around." A sharp pause. Then Cole again. "But the road is..." I looked at the map harder, zoomed in, refreshed the feed. Nothing changed, but the GPS dot flickered again, and suddenly, Unit 7 was 12 miles north of Route 9, in a place with no marked roads. Just blank terrain. My throat tightened. "Unit 7, you are off route. Do you copy?" Silence. Then, "We never left Route 9. That's when I noticed the first contradiction. The timestamps. The system log showed movement updates happening before I sent commands. Not after. Before. Like the unit was responding to me earlier than I spoke. My hand hovered over the console, unsure if I should even continue. Then the radio spoke again. Soft. "Closer. You're checking the map again." I froze. That wasn't a report. That was observation. That was awareness. I looked around the empty dispatch room without thinking. Nothing there. Just monitors humming. The ceiling fan ticking slowly. The fluorescent lights buzzing like tired insects. Still, I lowered my voice. "Unit 7, confirm visual surroundings." A pause. Then Ramirez answered. And this time, his voice shook. "There are no surroundings." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Static rolled in immediately. Heavy, thick, like something pressing its face against the speaker. Then Cole spoke, slower now. "We see roads when we speak." My stomach tightened. That made no sense. Not operationally. Not logically. Not even humanly. I checked the system logs again. Route 9. Still active. Still normal. But now there were 2 GPS dots. One labeled Unit 7. The other unlabeled. Both moving. Both following each other. I felt my pulse rising. "Dispatch to Unit 7, I said. "Report visual environment immediately." A long pause followed. So long I almost convinced myself the line dropped. Then, "We're inside the road," Ramirez said quietly. I leaned forward. "What does that mean?" Cole answered instead. "We're driving through something that remembers roads." I stopped breathing for a second. That sentence didn't belong in any official report. It didn't belong anywhere. But the radio continued like it was normal. "We passed the same mile marker," Cole said. "Every time we blink." I looked at the map again. Zoomed out, zoomed in. Nothing changed. But I noticed something new. Route 9 had a marker now. Mile 13. It wasn't there before. I know it wasn't, because I checked that exact stretch 10 times tonight. My fingers went cold. "Unit 7, I said slowly. "Confirm visibility of mile marker 13. Silence. Then Ramirez, almost whispering. "It appears when we remember it." I leaned back in my chair. Hard. The sound echoed in the empty room. Too loud. Too real. And for a moment, I thought I heard something echo it back. Behind me. But I didn't turn. Not yet. Because the radio was still talking. And I needed answers before I lost control of the room. "Unit 7, I said, "are you experiencing hallucinations?" That question felt stupid the moment I said it. But I needed grounding. Logic. Anything real. Cole answered immediately. "No," he said. Then a pause. Then, "It's consistent." That word made my skin crawl. Consistent. Like this wasn't chaos to them. Like it followed rules I couldn't see. The GPS dot suddenly shifted again. Now it was inside county boundaries again, but on a road that doesn't exist in any database. I checked backup maps, offline records, paper archives. Nothing matched. Nothing even came close. Then the radio clicked again, and everything changed, because this time I didn't hear them first. I heard myself, my own voice, coming through the channel. "Unit 7, turn left at the next intersection." I froze. I didn't say that. I never transmitted that command. But on the screen, the route changed. The GPS dot obeyed. I felt my breath catch in my throat. "Dispatch," I whispered. The radio responded instantly, in my voice. "Yes." My blood ran cold. That wasn't an imitation. That was exact. Down to the pause between syllables. I stood up so fast my chair hit the wall. "What the hell is this?" I said out loud now. The radio answered again. Still me, still calm. You're doing your job. My hands shook. I grabbed the mic anyway. Unit 7, do you copy this transmission? A long silence. Then Ramirez answered, but he sounded confused now. We hear you twice. My eyes darted to the console. The system showed only one active channel, one frequency, but I was hearing three things now. Cole, Ramirez, and me, talking at different times, on the same line. Then Cole spoke again. Dispatch! Why are you giving us directions we already followed? I blinked. What? Ramirez interrupted. You told us to turn left. My stomach dropped. I never did. Silence. Then the radio hissed softly, like a smile forming in static. Then my voice came back again. Calm. Too calm. You will. I stepped back from the console, completely now, because something was wrong with the room, not the radio. The room, the hum of the lights felt synchronized now, like they were breathing in the same rhythm as the channel. The clock on the wall ticked once, then stopped. 2:13 a.m. still, frozen, like time had refused to move forward. The GPS screen flickered violently, and suddenly Unit 7 was gone, completely gone. No signal, nothing. I exhaled sharply. Finally, silence. But it didn't feel like relief. It felt like waiting. And then, behind me, a radio beeped. Not the main console, a second device. I turned slowly. There was nothing there except the backup radio on the shelf. Old model, unused. Shouldn't even have power. But it was on, and the speaker crackled softly. Then my voice came through it. Not calm this time. Closer. Whispering. You're still checking the main screen. My hand dropped to my side, because I hadn't moved since I stood up. But the backup radio didn't care. It continued anyway. You already gave us directions. A pause. Then, and we already followed them. The main console flickered again, and for half a second, I saw it. Route 9, but not empty. A patrol car, stopped outside the station. Lights off, engine running, waiting. And I realized something I didn't want to accept. Unit 7 wasn't missing. They weren't lost. They were here, just not in the way I understood anymore. The radio clicked one last time, and my own voice spoke again. Soft, final, open the door. And this time, I wasn't sure if it was an order or a memory I hadn't lived yet. The first time I heard myself speak, I thought I was losing my mind. Not metaphorically, literally, because my voice came to the radio, reporting a crime I was not at. 2:13 a.m. still hung over the station, like it refused to move on. The clock hadn't changed since everything started, like time itself had gotten stuck listening. I was standing behind the dispatch console, staring at the main screen. Route 9 was gone now. No Unit 7. No moving. Just empty system logs that kept refreshing like they were waiting for permission to stop existing. Then the radio clicked, and I heard myself say, "There's a body on Route 9 near mile marker 13. I froze, so hard my hands forgot how to move, because I had not spoken. I had not seen anything, and there was no body report in any active channel. But the voice continued. Calm, controlled, mine. The victim is a male, mid-30s. No pulse, no movement, possible head trauma. I grabbed the mic instantly. Stop transmission. Identify yourself. Silence followed. Not static. Silence like something was thinking about me. Then the reply came. Still my voice. You already know this call. My throat went dry. I shook my head slowly, even though no one could see me. No, I whispered. I don't. The radio hissed softly, and for a moment, I swear I heard footsteps inside the speaker. Not outside, inside. Then the voice continued. Dispatch log shows you received Unit 7 confirmation at 2:09 a.m. I looked at the screen immediately. Log history. My hands were shaking now, because it was there. A record. Clear. Undeniable. Unit 7 confirms body at Route 9, mile marker 13. Dispatch acknowledged. Timestamp, 2:09 a.m., before I ever spoke to them, before any of this began. My chest tightened. No! I said again, louder this time. That didn't happen. The radio answered instantly. It already did. And then something worse happened. The backup channel opened. Automatically. No input. No command. Just activation. And another voice came through. My voice. But different. Tired. Like it had been working longer than me. Requesting backup on Route 9. I stumbled back from the console, because now there were two versions of me speaking at once. One reporting a crime, one denying it, and neither of them sounded like I was in control. I pressed the mic again. Stop all transmissions. This is dispatch override. A pause. Then both voices answered together. You cannot override what already occurred. My hands went cold. I checked the incident board. Nothing. No entry. No police dispatch. No external call. But the radio kept feeding details anyway. The body is face down. Wallet missing. Vehicle nearby abandoned. My stomach twisted because I was hearing details I hadn't been told. And worse, my mind started trying to picture them, like it already knew. I closed my eyes for a second, just to reset, just to breathe. But when I opened them, the screen had changed. There was now an official case file open. Case ID 09-13 unknown. My name was attached to it. As reporting officer, I felt my knees weaken slightly. No! I whispered again, weaker this time. The radio responded softly, almost gently. You were there. I shook my head harder now. I wasn't. Silence. Then my voice came again. But this time, it wasn't reporting. It was describing what I was doing right now. You were standing alone in dispatch. You were checking the screen again. You were trying to deny it. My breath caught, because every word was accurate. Too accurate. Like someone was watching through my own eyes. I turned slowly toward the room behind me. Empty chairs. Dark corners. The hum of machines. Nothing moved, but I suddenly felt like the room was smaller than before. Like it was leaning in to listen. Then the radio crackled again, and the voice shifted. It wasn't reporting anymore. It was remembering. We arrived at mile marker 13 at 2:07 a.m. I froze. That timestamp again. Before everything. Before the calls. Before the silence. Before me. The voice continued. There was no one else there except us. I felt my throat tighten, because now I understood something I didn't want to understand. This wasn't a report. This was a recording of something that already happened. Something I had been part of, but couldn't remember. I grabbed the edge of the console. Unit 7. I said slowly, confirm your identity. A long pause. Then my voice answered again, but softer, broken. We are not Unit 7 anymore. My heart skipped. Then, we are the version that stayed. The lights above me flickered. Once, twice, and for a split second in that darkness, I saw the reflection on the screen. Not mine. Another version of me standing behind me, close enough that I could feel its presence without turning. I didn't turn. I couldn't. The radio continued. Dispatch entered the scene at 2:10 a.m. I shook my head. No, I didn't leave the station. Silence. Then the voice replied, you did not leave physically. My skin went cold. But you left anyway. The radio hissed again. And suddenly I remembered something I shouldn't have. A flash. Route 9. Cold air. A flashing light from a patrol car. And me, standing outside it, looking down at something on the road. Something I didn't want to see clearly. I gasped and stepped back from the console, because the memory didn't feel like memory. It felt like something being inserted into me. Forced. The radio spoke again. Do you remember now? My hands were shaking violently. I don't. I stopped, because I did. Fragments. Not whole scenes. Just pieces. Blood on gravel. A broken radio. A voice calling my name through static. My own voice, saying something I couldn't fully hear. I stumbled back into my chair. My breathing uneven now. No! I whispered. That's not real. The radio responded immediately. It is logged. I looked at the screen again. The case file had updated. Now it included an audio attachment. My hand hesitated before clicking it. I shouldn't have, but I did, and my voice filled the room. Clear. Close. Panicked. Dispatch! We got one down on Route 9. Repeat, one down. Then static. Then silence. Then my voice again, but this time calmer. Too calm. Confirming subject is deceased. I slammed the system shut instantly. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. But the radio kept speaking anyway. You confirmed it. I shook my head violently. I don't remember that. The voice softened again. You will? And then something changed. The backup radio on the shelf turned on by itself. No lights flickering. No warning. Just power. And a new transmission began. Not from Unit 7. Not from dispatch. But from me. From outside the station. From a place I hadn't been yet. You are about to deny this again, my voice said to the second radio. And then you will arrive at mile marker 13. I stood up slowly. My legs felt unsteady now. What is this? I whispered. The radio answered in unison. A layered voice. Mine. The part you keep forgetting. And for the first time, I realized a terrifying possibility wasn't that I was hearing another voice. It was that the voice was already me. Just from a moment I hadn't lived yet. It showed up again right after we confirmed it didn't exist. The radio was still in my hand when I saw it through the windshield. A green road sign standing alone in the dark desert stretch. Mile marker 13. I froze, because that road, it was supposed to be mile 7 territory. Not even close to 13. Not even on the same mapping grid. My deputy noticed my silence. What is it? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I just kept staring. The sign didn't look old. Didn't look damaged. It looked freshly planted. Like someone had just installed it minutes ago. In the middle of nowhere, but we had driven this exact route 10 minutes ago. And it wasn't there. I turned the patrol lights on, even though nothing felt normal enough for procedure anymore. The red and blue washed over the sand and scrub brush. The sign stayed still, but the air around it didn't feel still. It felt aware. I stepped out of the car first. The wind hit my face, dry and cold. My boots sank slightly into the sand as I walked forward. Every instinct in my body said, don't go closer. But something else said I already had. Halfway to the sign, my radio cracked alive again. No static this time. Just breathing. Slow. Controlled. Right in my ear. My deputy called out behind me. Sir, do you hear that? I nodded once. But I wasn't sure what I was agreeing to. Because the breathing wasn't just on the radio anymore. It was in the desert too. I reached the sign. Mile marker 13. The paint looked too fresh. Like it hadn't dried yet. I touched it without thinking. Cold. Not metal cold. Not wood cold. Bone cold. And then something happened that made my stomach drop. My name came over the radio. Not dispatch. Not my deputy. My own voice. Unit 47. Proceed past mile marker 13. Do not turn back. I stepped away instantly. My deputy looked at me like I had gone pale. That's not you, right? I wanted to say no, but I recognized my own tone. The exact way I speak when I'm trying not to panic. The radio clicked again. Same voice. Proceed. The wind picked up suddenly, pushing dust across the road in a wave. When it cleared, the sign was gone. Just gone. No tracks. No hole in the ground. Nothing. My deputy swore under his breath. Where did it go? I didn't answer, because I could still feel it. Not see it. Feel it, like it had moved behind us. We got back in the car fast. I reversed the patrol unit. Headlights scanning the road behind us. Nothing. Just empty desert. But the radio, it wouldn't stop. Now, it wasn't just my voice. It was multiple voices, all speaking at once. Different tones, different ages, all saying the same thing. Proceed past mile marker 13. Over and over. My hands tightened on the wheel. We never passed it, I said. My deputy looked confused. We just did. No, I said, we didn't. And that's when the dashboard GPS flickered. The map zoomed out by itself. Our location marker blinked, and then the label changed. Mile marker 13, right on top of us. My deputy hit the brakes hard. We weren't moving anymore, but the engine was still running. The road outside the windows, it looked longer than before, like it stretched farther into darkness than geography should allow. I turned off the radio. Silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the voice came back through the car speakers. Not crackling this time. Clear, right behind my words. "I see you stopped." My deputy whispered. "Sir, where is it speaking from?" I didn't know how to answer that, because it wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from the entire vehicle. The metal, the dashboard, the glass, like the car itself had learned how to speak. I stepped out again, slower this time. The desert felt different, heavier, like something was pressing down on it from above. And there it was again, mile marker 13. But now it was further ahead. We hadn't moved. It had. My deputy followed me, flashlight shaking slightly in his hand. "This isn't possible," he said. I almost laughed at that word. Possible. Nothing about this had been possible since the first unanswered call at 2:13 a.m. The sign stood there again, perfectly upright. But now there was something else. A shape behind it. At first I thought it was a shadow. Then it moved. Slowly. Like it was waiting for us to notice it properly. My deputy raised his light, and the beam went through it. Not around it. Through it. Like the shape wasn't fully in our world. Then the radio spoke again. And this time it wasn't my voice. It was his. My deputy froze. We both heard it clearly. His voice saying, "Do not approach mile marker 13. He looked at me, panic rising in his eyes. I didn't say that. But the radio didn't care. It repeated him again. And again. Each time slightly different. Like it was learning him. My stomach tightened. "Step back," I told him. But he didn't move. Because the shape behind the sign was now closer. Closer than it should have been. And it wasn't walking. It was just appearing nearer between each blink. The radio cut out completely. For the first time in hours, silence returned. And that silence was worse, because now we could hear something else. Footsteps, circling us. But there was nothing to cast them. No body, no source. Just sound moving around us like we were standing inside someone else's memory. Then my radio clicked on again. A single message, not repeating. Just once. And it said something that made my blood go cold. "We are already in your unit." My deputy whispered, "Sir, check the back seat." I didn't want to, but I did. Empty. Still empty. But the rear door light was on. We never opened it. I turned slowly back around. Mile marker 13 was gone again. But this time I knew better. It wasn't gone. It was inside the pattern of everything around us. The road, the air, the space between sound. My deputy's voice cracked. "Where do we go?" I looked at the GPS. It had stopped showing roads entirely. Just one word now. Forward. The engine turned itself on. We didn't touch it. The car started rolling slowly without me pressing the gas. And ahead of us in the headlights, mile marker 13 appeared again, closer than before, waiting like it had always been there, like it had never left. And this time, I understood something I didn't want to understand. It wasn't a place on the road. It was a road finding us. The radio came alive one last time before we crossed again. My voice. "Calm. Too calm. Unit 47, you are arriving." The sign filled the windshield. And just before we hit it, the world inside the headlights changed shape. We were still moving when they found us. That was the first lie. Because I remember the engine dying. I remember the world folding inside the headlights. I remember mile marker 13 filling the windshield like it wanted to swallow us whole. But now there were sirens, flashing lights, and voices outside the window shouting my name like I had been missing, not present. My deputy sat frozen beside me, eyes open, mouth slightly parted, like he had been holding a breath for too long. The patrol car door opened from the outside. I didn't open it. A hand pulled me out anyway. Cold air hit my face. Real air, too real. And then I saw them. 3 sheriff units, 2 rescue trucks. A whole perimeter of flashing lights on a highway I didn't recognize. Not ours. Not the one we entered. A man in a uniform stepped forward. His face looked tired in a way that didn't match time. Like he had been waiting longer than he should have been able to wait. "Unit 47, he said carefully. "Where have you been?" I blinked at him. "That's not possible," I said. "We were on patrol 10 minutes ago." He looked at me like I had just spoken a different language. 10 minutes, he repeated. Then he checked a clipboard. His hand stopped moving, just froze mid-page, because I saw the date on it. 3 days ago. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might fall to the ground. I shook my head immediately. "No, that's wrong. We never left the route. We were..." I stopped because I didn't know how to finish it. Mile marker 13. The road that moved. The voice that wasn't mine. My deputy stepped out behind me, and I felt something shift instantly, because everyone around us reacted at the same time, like they had just seen a ghost stand up and start walking. One of the rescue officers whispered. There were only supposed to be one in the unit. I turned to my deputy. He was staring at his own hands, like he didn't recognize them. "Do you remember leaving the car?" I asked him. He didn't answer right away. That delay told me everything. Then he whispered, "I remember driving but not stopping." A silence spread through the scene. Even the radios outside stopped crackling, like the whole world was listening for what we would say next. The lead officer stepped closer to me. "Sir," he said slowly, "your unit was found driving north on Highway 37. Empty road. No destination logged. No dispatch contact. No fuel changes. Just endless movement." I shook my head harder. We were responding to calls. "What calls?" he asked. I opened my mouth, and nothing came out, because I couldn't remember a single call before mile marker 13. Not one. That realization hit worse than anything else. Like my memory had a wall in it, a blank space that used to be full. My deputy suddenly grabbed my arm. "Sir," he said quietly, almost shaking, "look at the car." I turned, and my blood went cold. The patrol unit was still running, still moving slowly forward, even though no one was inside it, even though the wheels weren't touching anything solid anymore. It was rolling across air like the road still existed underneath it. Then it stopped, right in front of us. The driver door opened by itself, and the radio inside clicked on. My voice came through. Calm, flat, too familiar. "Unit 47 has arrived at mile marker 13. The officers around us stepped back immediately. One of them muttered, 'Turn it off.' But it didn't turn off, because there was no switch anymore. The radio wasn't a device. It was a memory speaking out loud. My deputy backed away from the car, slowly. "That's not us," he said. But I couldn't look away, because inside the driver's seat, there was something sitting there, not fully formed, not fully visible, just the outline of someone wearing my posture, like the shape of me had stayed behind in the vehicle. The officer with the clipboard stepped closer again, voice tense. "Where were you before you disappeared?" I tried again. "I told you, we were on patrol." But even I didn't believe it anymore, because the more I said it, the more it felt like I was repeating something I had been told, not something I lived. Then the radio changed. Static first, then a second voice. My deputy's voice, but wrong, slower, like it was being played back from somewhere deep underwater. "Do not stop at mile marker 13. He turned pale instantly. "That's not me." The radio continued anyway. Same sentence. Again and again. But now every repetition added something new. A word, a detail, a correction. "Do not stop at mile marker 13, because you never did." The air around us felt tighter, like the space itself was trying to convince us of something. The lead officer suddenly raised his hand. Everyone stepped back from the unit. No one moved, because the patrol car's headlights flickered, and the road behind it appeared, not physically, but visually, like a memory projected onto reality. I saw it again, mile marker 13, standing in the middle of nothing, waiting, and then I heard it, not through radio, not through speakers. inside my head, my own voice, but not remembering, reporting, we are still en route. We have never stopped driving. My breath caught, because that wasn't a lie. It was a record, something that had already been written. The officer stepped closer to me again. Sir, how long were you on Highway 37? I tried to answer, but I didn't know what Highway 37 meant anymore, because I suddenly couldn't picture where we had started. My deputy whispered, I don't remember leaving the station. That was the second lie, or maybe the first truth. The radios around us all turned on at once. Every single one. Different channels, different frequencies, but the same message. My name, I said quietly. Every radio repeated it, then added, you never left the road. The patrol car engine started again. Even though no one touched it, the tires began turning. Slowly, forward, the headlights pointed into a stretch of darkness that wasn't part of any map, and I felt it, a pull, not physical, something deeper, like the idea of movement itself had not finished with us yet. My deputy grabbed my arm harder now. We're here, he said. We're standing here. But his voice sounded unsure, like even he didn't fully believe where here was anymore. The lead officer shouted, shut down the vehicle, but the patrol car didn't respond, because it wasn't a vehicle anymore. It was continuing a story, and we were still inside it. The radio clicked one final time. My voice returned, closer than before, almost gentle. Unit 47, you are still responding. The headlights flared, and the road behind them opened again. Mile marker 13 appeared. Not ahead this time. All around us, like it had stopped being a place and started becoming a rule. The last thing I remember clearly is my deputy saying my name. Not panicked, not loud, just confused. Like he was trying to remember who I was before the road decided for us. Then everything started moving again, even though we weren't in the car, even though we weren't anywhere we could name anymore. And the final thought I had before it all blurred was simple. We never left that road. We only learned how to keep driving inside it. The dispatcher didn't even hesitate when the voice came through. Unit 18, proceed to Route 91B. Unauthorized route request confirmed. But I was already staring at the map, because there was no Route 91B. Not in the system, not in the county grid, not in any update we'd ever downloaded. I leaned closer to the screen, feeling that familiar tightness in my chest. The kind that shows up before something stops making sense. Repeat that request, I said into the mic. A pause. Then dispatch again. Proceed to Route 91B. Mile entry confirmed. Coordinates already active. My partner in the passenger seat turned toward me. We don't have a 91B. I nodded slowly. I know. But the screen changed anyway, like it was ignoring us. A new line appeared on the digital map. A road that hadn't been there a second ago. Thin, gray, cutting through empty land west of the highway grid. No labels, just a blinking cursor at the start of it. My radio clicked again. Dispatch voice, same calm tone. Unit 18, acknowledge. I hesitated. That hesitation felt longer than it should have. Then I answered. Unit 18 copies. Even as I said it, something felt wrong. Not about the assignment. About the fact that I said copies like I had done this before. My partner leaned forward. Sir, that road wasn't in briefing. I know, I said again. But I didn't take my eyes off the map. Because now the road wasn't just visible. It was updating in real time. As if it was being drawn while we watched it. Like something on the other side was finishing a map we were never meant to see. Dispatch came through again. Route 91B is time sensitive. That word made me pause. Time sensitive. We usually heard that when someone was injured or trapped or something had gone wrong already. But this didn't sound like that. This sounded like something had already decided what we were going to do. My partner checked his screen. There's no file attached to this call. That's because it's not a call, I muttered. He looked at me. Then what is it? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know how to explain the feeling I had in my gut. That we weren't being sent somewhere. We were being directed. The engine started when I turned the key. No hesitation. No mechanical complaint. Just immediate response. Like the car was waiting for permission. We pulled out of the station. And the moment we hit the main road, the GPS auto-routed itself. No input from me. No confirmation needed. It simply locked onto Route 91B. My partner frowned. I didn't touch anything. Neither did I said. But the route was already moving across the screen, stretching farther than it should have, because the map wasn't normal anymore. It wasn't showing distance in miles. It was showing something else. Sections, like the road wasn't measured in space, but in stages. We drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. That kind of silence that feels like it's waiting to be interrupted. And then the radio crackled again. But this time, it wasn't dispatch. It was a different voice. Mine, except I hadn't spoken. Unit 18 is en route. No deviations expected. My partner froze. Did you just... I didn't say that. I interrupted fast. The radio repeated it. Same voice. Same tone. Even the same small pause I take before finishing a sentence. My grip tightened on the wheel because I recognized it too well. That wasn't just my voice. That was how I sound when I'm trying to sound calm. We passed mile marker signs on the highway. Normal ones at first, but the numbers started repeating. 23 again, then 23 again, slightly faded. Like the road was forgetting how to move forward properly. My partner leaned closer to the window. That doesn't make sense. We're passing the same marker. I didn't respond, because I noticed something worse. The landscape wasn't changing anymore. It was looping. Same broken fence on the right. Same dead tree bent at an angle like it had been hit by something heavy. Same patch of road where the asphalt looked slightly melted. We had seen it before. Not minutes ago. Seconds ago. My radio clicked again. Dispatch voice returned. Unit 18, confirmed visual on Route 91B entry point. My partner looked ahead. There's nothing here. But I didn't answer. Because there was something there, just not on the road, on the horizon, a thin break in the landscape, like reality had been cut and stitched back together wrong. And at the center of it, a road sign, small, green, barely visible. My stomach tightened, because I had seen that sign before, but I couldn't remember where. Do you see that? My partner asked. Yes, I said quietly. We got closer, and the sign became readable. Route 91B. No arrows. No destination. Just the name. Like it was waiting for us to already know where it led. The radio spoke again. But this time the voice was closer. Not from dispatch. Not from the car. From inside the cab itself. Entry confirmed. My partner turned sharply. Where is that coming from? I didn't answer. Because I noticed something else now. The road ahead of us wasn't ending. It was continuing into terrain that shouldn't exist. No buildings, no infrastructure, just open land stretching too far in every direction, like the world had been stretched thin to make room for something underneath. We crossed the sign, and the moment we did, the GPS flickered. Once, twice, then changed. The label disappeared, replaced with a single word. Active. My partner whispered. This feels wrong. I nodded slowly. It's not supposed to feel right. Then the radio made a sound I will never forget. Static first, then my voice again. But this time it wasn't calm. It was strained, breathing slightly heavier, like it was speaking while running. Unit 18 has entered Route 91B. Continue forward. My partner turned to me instantly. That's you again. I shook my head. No. That's not me talking. But even as I said it, I realized something terrifying. It sounded like me because it knew how I would sound in this situation. Not what I said. Well, I would say, the road straightened ahead. Too straight. No curves. No dips. No natural variation. Just a perfect line stretching forward like a drawn intention. And then we saw the first structure. A small checkpoint booth. Middle of nowhere. No connecting road. No reason for it to exist. Just standing there like it had always been part of the landscape. My partner leaned forward. That wasn't on the map. No, I said softly. It wasn't on ours. The radio clicked again, but this time, the voice didn't wait for acknowledgement. It just spoke. Proceed to inspection point. My partner laughed nervously. Inspection point? There's no traffic here. But I wasn't laughing, because the booth was already occupied, a silhouette inside, standing perfectly still, watching us approach. And the closer we got, the more I felt like it wasn't watching us for the first time, but waiting for us to remember that it had always been there. The engine slowed on its own. My foot wasn't on the brake. My partner noticed it too. Why is it stopping? I didn't do it, I said, but deep down I already knew. We weren't stopping because we chose to. We were stopping because Route 91B had reached its next section, and we had arrived exactly where it expected us to be. The booth window shifted slightly. The figure inside leaned forward, and the radio whispered one final thing before the silence hit. Unit 18, welcome to the route that does not end. It started with something small, something I almost didn't write in the log. A road that wasn't there in the afternoon was suddenly there at night. Not a new road, not construction, just an old stretch of asphalt, like it had always been waiting in the dark. I remember the exact moment I first saw it. Headlights cutting through empty county land. Nothing on the GPS, nothing on the map, just black fields on both sides, and wind pushing against a patrol car like it was trying to slow me down. Then my radio cracked. Not dispatch, not static. A voice. Unit 12. Confirmed visual on mile line access. I looked down at the screen. No mile line existed. I should have called it in right there, but then the road appeared. It wasn't like it showed up suddenly. It was worse than that. It felt like my eyes were just finally allowed to see it. A narrow strip of asphalt cutting to the field. Too clean, too straight. Like it had been freshly remembered into existence. And on its side, the sign, Mile Marker 13. My throat went dry because there is no Mile 13 in our county. There never has been. I slowed the cruiser anyway. That's when the second thing happened. The radio stopped. Not static, not silence, just absence. Like sound itself had been removed from the air. I stepped out of the car. The night felt different out there. Thicker, like it had weight. The wind stopped. Even the insects went quiet. And that road, it waited. I should have turned back. But something kept me moving forward. A feeling I didn't recognize at first. Curiosity. Or maybe something pretending to be it. My boots hit the asphalt, and I noticed something strange. The road wasn't cold. It was warm, like it had been driven on recently. But there were no tire marks. No dust. Nothing. Just black pavement stretching into the dark, like it went somewhere it wasn't supposed to. My radio came back, but it wasn't dispatch anymore. It was breathing. Slow. Close. Like someone wearing my headset. I froze. Then a voice whispered, "You're early tonight." I snapped the radio off. Silence hit me again. Harder this time. Like punishment. I stepped back toward the cruiser. That's when I saw it. My patrol car was no longer behind me. Just empty field. No lights. No engine. Just grass moving slightly, like something heavy had passed through it moments ago. My stomach dropped. I turned back to the road. It was longer now. That's the only way I can describe it. Longer than it was a minute ago. Stretching deeper into the dark, like it was expanding every time I stopped looking directly at it. And then I heard engines. Not mine. Multiple. Coming from ahead. Headlights appeared in the distance. A convoy. Sheriff units. Familiar shapes. I recognized Unit 8. Unit 3. Even dispatch escort. But something was wrong. They weren't moving like they were driving. They were moving like they were being carried. No tire noise. No gravel crunch. Just silent motion across impossible distance. My radio turned itself on again. This time clearer. Dispatch voice. My dispatch voice. Unit 12. Do not approach mile 13. I swallowed. My mouth felt full of dust. Repeat. I said into the mic. Who is this? A pause. Then, you already did. My hand started shaking, because I knew that voice. It was mine, but older, tired in a way I couldn't place. Like it had already seen something I hadn't yet survived. The convoy passed in front of me, or through me. I can't decide which word is correct. Their lights didn't illuminate the road. They swallowed it. Each vehicle moved without sound, without friction, without interaction with the world around it. And inside the last car, I saw myself, sitting in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, eyes open, not blinking. I stumbled back, heart hammering so hard I could feel in my teeth. Stop. I whispered. Stop. The vehicles didn't stop. They disappeared into the road, like it was swallowing them. And then silence again. But not empty silence. Waiting silence. I turned off my radio completely. That didn't help, because now the sound wasn't coming from the device. It was coming from everywhere. From the road itself. From under my boots. From inside my head. Unit 12. It whispered again. Closer. You shouldn't have turned off communication. I backed away slowly. Every step felt like it echoed twice. Once in reality. Once somewhere else. The road behind me was gone now. Just field again. But the mile marker sign stayed. Standing alone in the grass like it had always been there. And I realized something I didn't want to realize. The road only existed when I acknowledged it. I tried to breathe normally. Failed. My fingers went to my radio instinctively. Then stopped because I remembered what it said earlier. You already did. A crack of static exploded in my ear anyway. Even though the radio was off. Even though I was holding it in my hand like dead metal. And then the worst part happened. My own voice came through again. But this time it wasn't reporting. It was narrating. Calm. Controlled. Like it was reading something already written. Unit 12 enters mile line access at 2:41 hours. I shook my head violently. No, that's not. The voice continued. Visual confirmation. Road appears only after sunset. Dissolves at dawn. Subject confirmed responsive. I dropped the radio. It didn't hit the ground. It just stopped existing mid-fall. Like it was never important enough to finish the motion. My breathing turned shallow. Because I understood something I didn't want to understand. The road wasn't just appearing at night. It was recording night. And I was inside the recording. A sound came from behind me. Slow footsteps. I turned. Nothing there. But the grass was moving again. Like something invisible had just walked through it. Then the whisper returned. Right beside my ear. Do you remember how you got here? I couldn't answer. Because I didn't. Not clearly. I remembered starting the shift. I remembered dispatch assigning an unusual route. But everything after that felt like it had been edited, cut, rewritten. The road flickered back into existence ahead of me, just for a second, long enough for me to see it fully this time. It wasn't empty. There were vehicles lying along it, dozens, all parked, all silent, and every windshield had someone looking back at me, watching, waiting, recognizing me. My knees almost gave out, and that's when I saw the sign again, mile marker 13. But now there was something new carved beneath it, fresh, like it had just been added. Welcome back, Unit 12. The wind returned suddenly, violent, cold, and the road stabilized again, fully visible now, stretching in both directions like a loop with no exit. My radio turned on one last time by itself, and my own voice spoke, softer now, almost relieved. Good, you're remembering. The silence after that wasn't empty. It was complete, and I understood I was no longer being called to the road. I was being returned to it. Somewhere far down the stretch of mile 13, headlights flickered again, waiting for me to continue the shift I apparently never left. And even now, I can still hear dispatch trying to reach Unit 12. But every call comes back with the same answer. My voice, repeating from somewhere ahead of me, somewhere inside the road itself. I'm still on patrol. They were standing on the side of the road when I first saw them. Too many to ignore this time. Not shadows, not tricks of light. People, a whole cluster of them, just beyond the edge of mile 13, like they had been waiting for patrol to notice them. But something felt wrong before I even slowed down. because there were no footprints. Not in the dirt, not in the thin gravel, not even in the wet patches near the ditch. Nothing. My headlights washed over them as I rolled closer, and I remember my hands tightening on the wheel without me telling them to. They didn't wave, didn't move, just watched, all of them facing the road like they already knew I would stop. My radio was silent again, not dead this time, just listening, like it was waiting for me to speak first. I slowed the cruiser to a crawl. The moment my tires crossed the invisible line near mile 13, I felt it, a shift, like the air inside the car got heavier. The world outside didn't look different. It felt different. And then I heard something I didn't expect. Footsteps. Outside. Right beside the car. I looked. No one there. But the sound continued, matching my speed. Walking alongside me. Calm. Patient. Like it belonged there more than I did. I stopped the cruiser. The footsteps stopped too. Perfectly. My throat went dry as I stepped out. The night was still again. Too still. Even the wind felt like it had been told to stop. The group of people stood, maybe 30 feet away now, close enough that I should have seen details. Faces, clothes, something normal. But I didn't, because every time I tried to focus on one of them, my eyes slid away, like they weren't meant to be fully seen. I raised my flashlight. The beam cut through the dark and landed on the nearest figure. A man, I think, or something shaped like one. He didn't blink, didn't react. Just stared back at me like I was the strange one for shining light. I moved the beam down, and that's when my stomach turned. No shadows beneath him, not even faint ones. Just empty ground where a shadow should have been. I swallowed hard and tried the radio. Nothing came out, not static, not breathing. Just silence, so complete it felt like it pressed against my eardrums. One of them stepped forward, slow, careful, like they didn't want to disturb the air. I raised my hand instinctively. Stop, I said. My voice sounded wrong out here. Too loud, too real. The figure stopped immediately, then tilted its head slightly. Not curiosity, recognition. And that's when it spoke. Not through the radio, not in my headset, directly into my head. You still think we are outside the road. My breath caught. I took a step back without meaning to. What are you? I asked. The words felt stupid the moment I said them. The figure didn't answer right away. Instead, more of them moved closer, slowly forming a half circle around me. No urgency, no threat, just certainty, like I was already contained. Then the first one spoke again. We are what stays. I shook my head. That doesn't mean anything. It stepped closer, close enough now that I should have been able to see eyes clearly. But I couldn't, because there weren't any details to hold on to. Just shape, presence, and a voice that didn't belong in air. You keep looking for marks, it said, but we do not leave what your world understands. I forced my flashlight down again. At their feet, still nothing. No prints, no disturbance, no evidence they had ever touched the ground. My mind started filling in answers I didn't want. This isn't real, I whispered. The moment I said it, several of them turned their heads slightly, all at once, like I had said something familiar, like they had heard that phrase before. One of them laughed, but it wasn't sound. It was pressure inside my ears, a feeling more than an audio. You said that before too, it replied. My skin went cold. Before? I tightened my grip on the flashlight. What do you mean before? A pause, long enough to feel intentional. Then, you returned here 3 nights ago. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. But even as I said it, something inside me hesitated. 3 nights? I remember shifts. I remember reports. But the time between them, it felt thin, gapped, like pages missing from a file. The figure tilted its head again. You asked the same question then. My flashlight flickered, not because of batteries, because something around me changed. The air felt closer, tighter, like the world was adjusting itself to keep me in place. I backed toward my cruiser, but when I turned my head, the car wasn't where I left it, just empty road behind me. No lights, no reflection, no proof it had ever been there. My breathing started to break apart. Short, uneven. What did you do to my unit? I shouted. The group didn't react. Not defensive, not aggressive, just patient, like I was still catching up. Then one of them stepped forward again. And this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. The ground beneath it didn't change. No shifting dirt. No weight, like it wasn't moving across space. Just changing position inside it. You asked to understand mile 13, it said softly. I shook my head again. I never asked for this. That answer made them pause. All of them. Like I had said something incorrect. Something incomplete. Then the first voice returned, quieter now. You always ask. My flashlight started to dim. Not flicker. Not fade. Just lowering itself, like it no longer mattered what I tried to see. I switched it off immediately and backed away from them. The darkness hit fast, but they didn't disappear. If anything, they became clearer. That's the part that made my chest lock. In full darkness, they were easier to see. I heard my own breathing become louder than everything else. And then I heard something else inside that breathing. My voice, not speaking, mimicking, repeating my thoughts a second too late. I froze. One of them spoke again. You are closer now. I whispered. Closer to what? No answer. Instead, the road behind them shifted slightly, like it folded, just for a second, and I saw something underneath it. Another road, layered, stacked beneath ours like pages in a book that shouldn't be opened. My mind tried to reject it immediately, but my body didn't. My body knew this was not the first layer. I turned back toward where my cruiser should have been. Still nothing. No vehicle. No radio signal. Just me and them. I took a step back. Then another, and that's when I noticed it. My boots made sound, but the ground didn't respond. No crunch. No resistance. Like I was the only thing interacting with the world now. One of them spoke again. We do not leave footprints, it said, because we are not leaving anything behind. My throat tightened. What are you trying to say? The figure stepped closer, and this time I saw something I wish I hadn't. Behind it, faint outlines. More of them, not standing, not walking, just layered into each other, like they existed in the same space, but different versions of it. And I realized something worse. They weren't appearing. They were remembering themselves into visibility. One of them leaned closer to me, and I swear its voice softened, almost sympathetic. You think you patrol this road, it said, but you are part of what keeps it here. My mind resisted that completely. No, I said, I don't belong here. A pause. Then, you said that last time too. Something in the night shifted again, and for a second, I saw it, a glimpse, myself, standing where I was, but not reacting, not speaking, just watching this version of me from a few steps back. And behind that version, another me, watching again, layer after layer, like this moment had already happened too many times to count. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might collapse. The figures around me didn't move. They didn't need to, because I finally understood what they were. Not residents, not people, not even entities in the way I understood that word. They were outcomes, events that never fully left the road they were created on. And I was standing in the middle of them. The first voice spoke one last time. You are still early in remembering. My knees almost gave out, because I understood what that meant too. I wasn't meeting them for the first time. I was meeting them again. And somewhere inside this road, I was still driving, still reporting, still talking into a radio that never stopped answering back. The figures began to fade slightly, not leaving, just waiting, like they knew I would come back to this exact moment again, and again, and again. I stepped backward into the dark, hoping distance would change something, but the road didn't end behind me. It simply continued, and somewhere far ahead, I could hear engines again, approaching, or repeating. I couldn't tell anymore. Only one thought stayed clear as everything else blurred. If they don't leave footprints, then nothing I do ever proves I was here either. The GPS didn't just freeze. It forgot where we were. 1 second, the map showed mile 13 stretching ahead like a straight line through empty county land. The next second, everything turned blank. No roads, no markers, no names, just a gray screen that kept blinking like it was trying to remember something it had already lost. I slowed the cruiser without thinking. My partner noticed first. "GPS is down," he said, tapping the screen. "That's weird. We've still got signal bars." I didn't answer right away, because I was looking outside. The road ahead was still there, but it didn't match the map anymore. It felt longer, not physically, but like it had gained distance without moving, like the space itself had stretched while we weren't watching closely enough. My radio crackled once, then went silent. No static, no feedback, just cut off, like someone had unplugged sound from this part of the world. I reached for the manual map. Old habit. Paper doesn't lie. But when I opened the glove compartment, there was nothing inside. No maps, no logs, no backup forms. Just empty space. Like the car had never been issued any. My partner leaned closer. "Okay, that's not normal," he said, voice tighter now. "We should turn back." I nodded slowly, but I didn't turn the wheel, because something ahead of us was pulling attention like gravity. Not visible, not loud, just unavoidable. The road itself felt wrong. Every mile marker we passed didn't register properly anymore. The numbers on them looked familiar, but incorrect at the same time, like they were being rewritten as we drove past. Then my dashboard blinked. Once, twice, and the location display changed. Not to error, not to unknown, but to something that made my chest go cold. "You are here." I stared at it too long. My partner leaned in. "That's just a glitch." It shouldn't say that, I interrupted, because it wasn't a location. It was a statement, a decision. We kept driving anyway. That's the worst part. We both knew something was wrong, but neither of us could define where the line was to stop. The road ahead started to thin. Not physically, visually, like it was losing resolution, the way old footage breaks down. The trees on the sides became simpler shapes. The sky flattened slightly, losing depth, and the world started feeling like it was being rendered in real time. My partner noticed too. "Do you see that?" he asked quietly. I nodded, because I didn't trust my voice anymore. Then the GPS screen flickered again, but this time it wasn't blank. It showed a route, a perfect line forward, but the destination label made my stomach tighten. Return point. My partner laughed nervously. That's not helpful. But I couldn't stop staring at it, because I did remember setting a return point, and I definitely didn't remember going anywhere that required one. The road dipped slightly ahead, and the moment we crossed that dip, everything changed. The GPS shut off completely. Not powered down, not crashed, just gone, like the device had been removed from reality instead of the car. My radio came alive again at the exact same moment, but it wasn't dispatch. It was my own voice, soft, controlled, already mid-sentence. Unit approaching non-index zone. Tracking no longer required. I froze. My partner grabbed the radio. "Who is this?" My voice continued. No hesitation. No emotion. Navigation systems are not permitted beyond this point. I reached over and pulled the cable. The radio didn't disconnect. It kept speaking anyway. From nowhere. From everywhere. My partner looked at me now, real fear setting in. "This is you." I shook my head immediately. "That's not me." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure, because the voice sounded correct. Not like imitation, like continuation, like something I had already said once before and forgotten. The cruiser suddenly slowed on its own. My foot wasn't on the brake. Neither was his. The vehicle just reduced speed as if the road ahead had requested it. We rolled to a stop in the middle of nowhere. No intersections. No obstacles. Just silence stretching in all directions. The GPS screen came back for 1 second. Just one, and what it showed made my throat close. The map wasn't blank anymore. It was full, but not with geography. With loops. The road we were on circled back into itself over and over again, like a coil that never broke. And in the center of that coil, A blinking dot labeled Unit 12. My hands went cold instantly, because that wasn't where we were. That was what we were inside. My partner noticed my face. "What does it say?" I didn't answer, because the dots started moving. Not forward, not backward, just repeating the same segment of road we were physically sitting on, over and over, like we were already driving it even while parked. The radio crackled again, and my own voice spoke, quieter this time, almost tired. "You are experiencing expected degradation." My partner hit the dashboard. "Shut that off." The voice continued anyway. "Spatial tracking fails once confirmation threshold is reached." I whisper without thinking. "What confirmation?" Silence. Then, "You are already recorded." My partner turned to me fully now. Recorded where? I couldn't answer, because I was suddenly remembering something I shouldn't have. Another shift, another patrol, another version of the same road, and me sitting in the same seat, saying the same words, asking the same questions. My breathing got shallow. "No," I said quietly. "No, that's not." The GPS flickered one last time, and the display changed again. This time it showed something worse. Not a location, not a route, but a timestamp. 2:13 a.m. Exactly. The same time everything started going wrong. My partner leaned in, reading it too. "That's current time." But I knew it wasn't, because I had seen that time before. On reports I didn't remember writing. On logs I didn't remember signing. On calls I didn't remember answering. The radio clicked again, and my voice came through softer now, almost close enough to touch. "Stop resisting loop confirmation." My partner looked at me now like I had answers I wasn't sharing. "Tell me what that means," he said. I swallowed hard. "I don't know. I lied." But something inside me did know, and it was starting to wake up. Outside the windshield, the road began to shimmer, not disappear, not shift, just lose consistency, like it couldn't decide what form it was supposed to take anymore. My partner's voice dropped. "We should walk back. On foot." I nodded. It felt like the only rational option left. We opened the doors. The moment my boots hit the ground, I felt it again. That pressure, like the world had been waiting for me to exit the vehicle before it changed rules. The cruiser behind us made a soft mechanical sound, then vanished. No flash, no noise, just absence, like it had never agreed to stay in this version of the road. My partner froze. Where did it? But he stopped mid-sentence, because the road itself had changed. The markings were gone, the texture slightly different, and the horizon closer. Too close, like distance had been compressed while we weren't looking. The radio in my hand turned itself on again, but now it wasn't just my voice. It was layered, multiple versions of me speaking at once. Calm, unbothered, certain. Unit 12 remains inside designated recording corridor. My partner stepped back. Recording corridor? What is that supposed to mean? I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see confusion in his eyes. I saw repetition, like he had asked that question before, like I had answered it before, and neither of us remembered. The road behind us sealed shut, not visually, conceptually, like turning around was no longer an option the world recognized. And ahead, the GPS icon reappeared in my mind even though the device was gone. Still blinking, still moving, still saying the same thing. "You are here." But now I understood something worse. It didn't mean location anymore. It meant permission. And somewhere far ahead on the erased road, something was still waiting for Unit 12 to complete the route it never stopped driving. The moment we turned back onto that road, I knew it had changed again, but I couldn't explain how I knew. The signs looked the same, yet nothing felt the same. My radio was dead silent, not static, not interference, just silence, like the world had stopped listening. Behind me, Deputy Harris kept checking the GPS like it was going to fix itself out of fear alone. His face looked pale under the dashboard light. "We've already passed that tree," he said quietly. I didn't answer at first, because I knew exactly what he meant. That same broken oak, the one with a split trunk, like a mouth frozen mid-scream. We had passed it 3 times already. And now it was ahead of us again. That was the first thing I couldn't explain. The second thing was the road itself. It was longer, not metaphorically, not emotionally, physically longer. The horizon should have been closer by now. We had driven for what felt like 40 minutes in a straight line, but the end of the road was still hanging far away, like it was always just out of reach. And that's when I realized something worse. The road wasn't repeating. It was expanding. I slowed the patrol car without thinking. The tires made a soft crunch on gravel that sounded too loud in the quiet. "Harris," I said, keeping my eyes forward, checked the mileage again. He looked down. His hand froze on the console. "That can't be right," he whispered. "What does it say?" He swallowed. "Hard. It's going up too fast. Like we're driving twice the speed we are." I felt my throat tighten, because I felt it too. The distance wasn't normal. The road was stretching time in a way I couldn't describe without sounding insane. And I had seen insane things in this job before. But this was different. This felt patient. Like something was letting us understand just enough to suffer properly. Then the radio crackled. Not static this time. A voice. Calm. Familiar. My own voice. Unit 12, report location. I jerked slightly in my seat. Harris looked at me instantly. "That's you." "No," I said too fast. "That's not me." But it was. The tone, the breath between words, even the slight rasp at the end of sentences. It was exactly how I sounded on long night shifts. Harris leaned closer to the radio. "Unit 12 is responding." I reached for the mic before he could. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. We are..." I stopped because I didn't know where we were anymore. The road numbers were gone. The mile markers had stopped making sense. Even the trees looked rearranged, like someone had shuffled the forest while we weren't looking. Harris spoke quietly. "We're still on Route 91, right?" I didn't answer him, because Route 91 didn't exist anymore on my mental map. Not since we crossed mile marker 13 again. The radio spoke before I could. "You are not lost," my voice said softly. Harris froze. I felt my grip tighten on the steering wheel until my knuckles burned. "Who is this?" I asked into the mic. A pause. Then, "You already know." The radio clicked off. Silence returned like a weight dropping on the roof of the car. Harris broke it first. "Sir, I don't like this." I let out a slow breath. "Neither do I." But something inside me had shifted, because fear is one thing, but recognition is worse. And I was starting to recognize the pattern. The road wasn't just stretching. It was reacting. Every time we acknowledged it, it changed slightly, like it was listening, like it was adjusting. We kept driving anyway, because that's what we were trained to do. Keep moving, keep reporting, keep control. But control was already gone. Then Harris pointed forward. "Did you see that?" At first I didn't. Then I did. A sign. Mile marker 13. Standing right in the middle of the road, like it had always been there. We both knew it hadn't. I pulled the car closer slowly. The sign looked old, weathered, rusted edges. But the number was fresh, clean, like it had just been painted. Harris whispered, "We passed that already." "No," I said quietly. "We passed it twice already." He turned to me sharply. "That doesn't make sense." "Nothing does," I replied. And I meant it more than I wanted to. The road behind us looked normal. The road ahead looked normal. But between them, something stretched too far, like reality was being pulled from both ends. The radio turned on again. No static, just breathing. Slow, close, human. Then my voice again. "You're getting closer." Harris grabbed the mic. "Closer to what?" No answer, just breathing. And then the sound shifted. Footsteps inside the radio, walking on gravel. I turned the volume down instinctively, but it didn't matter. The sound didn't come from the device anymore. It came from outside, from the road itself. We both heard it at the same time. Crunch, 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 like someone walking alongside the patrol car. But when I looked out the window, there was nothing, only the empty road stretching too far in both directions. Harris whispered, "Sir, it's pacing us." I didn't reply, because I noticed something worse. The footsteps weren't just beside us. They were ahead of us too, and behind us, like the road was full of invisible movement we couldn't see, but could absolutely hear. Then the engine sputtered, just once. Harris looked panicked. "What was that?" I checked the dashboard. Everything looked normal, but the fuel gauge dropped by 1 bar. Just like that. No warning, no explanation, as if distance itself was being consumed. The road had started taking something from us. I pressed the accelerator harder. We moved forward, but the sign, mile marker 13, appeared again, closer this time. Too close, like we hadn't moved at all. Harris shook his head slowly. "We're looping." "No," I said, "we're not looping." But even as I said it, I felt the truth pressing against my thoughts. This wasn't a loop. Loops return you to the same place. This was worse. This was expansion inside repetition. The road wasn't bringing us back. It was adding more road every time we tried to leave it. The radio turned on again. My voice was softer now, almost sad. "You keep trying to leave, but you never turn around." Harris stared at me. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer him, because I finally understood something I didn't want to understand. We weren't driving forward. We were being carried forward. The road was the movement now, not us. The footsteps stopped. The engine stabilized. Everything went quiet, too quiet. Then Harris spoke in a voice I barely recognized. "Sir, look behind us." I didn't want to, but I did, and the road behind us was gone. Not blocked, not hidden, gone, like it had never existed. Just darkness where distance should be. I felt my stomach drop. We weren't on a road anymore. We were on a piece of it, a fragment, a strip of something that kept growing only ahead of us. Harris whispered, "Where do we stop?" I didn't answer, because I finally understood the horror of it. There was no destination, only continuation. The radio clicked one last time, and my voice spoke again. But this time it wasn't calm. It was closer, right behind my ear. "You don't stop on this road," it said softly. "You become part of how it keeps going." The radio went dead, but the sound of footsteps returned, inside the car this time. And that's when I realized we were no longer just driving on the road. We were inside its expansion, and it was learning our shape. Outside the windshield, mile marker 13 appeared again, even closer than before, waiting like it had always been the only truth. And as we kept moving toward it, I couldn't shake one final thought. If the road keeps expanding every time we enter it, then how long before it runs out of world to take? The first alert came at 3:14 a.m. Not a scream, not a break-in, just a single motion sensor in holding cell 6 lighting up like someone had crossed a beam. But there was no one inside that cell. There hadn't been anyone inside it for 3 months. I remember staring at the monitor, waiting for it to correct itself. It didn't. The red indicator stayed solid, then blinked again, like something was pacing, slowly, inside a locked room. I leaned closer to the screen, without thinking. The hallway camera showed cell access door perfectly still, locked, sealed, no movement outside. But the sensor kept triggering, again, like footsteps that refused to exist on camera. "Glenn," I called into the radio, "you seeing this on your side?" There was a pause before the dispatcher answered. "Yeah," Glenn said. His voice sounded half asleep. "It's cell 6 again." Again? 3rd time this week. That made me sit up straighter, because this wasn't in any report I'd read. No one had mentioned again. Just malfunction. Just sensor glitch. But Glenn said it like it had a history, like it had a habit. I stood up from the desk and walked down the hallway toward the holding cells. The station was quiet in that heavy way it gets at night. Not peaceful, just emptied out of everything that makes it feel alive. Every step echoed too much. And the closer I got to cell 6, the colder it felt. Not temperature, something else, like pressure dropping in the air. I stopped outside the door. It was old steel, scratched from years of use. The number 6 barely visible under layers of repainting. The motion sensor light above it blinked again. Even though I wasn't moving, I stood perfectly still. It still triggered. That was the first moment I felt it. Not fear, recognition, like the room knew I was there before I admitted it to myself. I pressed my hand against the door. Cold metal. No vibration. No sound. Just stillness. And yet the sensor kept blinking. I radioed Glenn again. Pull up the internal feed for cell 6. I want full visual. There was hesitation on the line. Then typing. Then silence. Glenn said slowly. That's the thing. What thing? There's nothing inside it. I know there's nothing inside it. No, I mean there's no feed. I frowned. What do you mean no feed? I mean the camera isn't showing anything. It's just static, but only for cell 6. That made my stomach tighten slightly. Because cameras don't just fail selectively. Not like that. I looked at the hallway camera again. It was still showing the door clearly, but cell SIXS interior feed was gone. Not black, not frozen, gone. Like the camera had decided it didn't want to see that space anymore. Then the motion sensor blinked again, this time slower, like something inside had stopped moving to listen. I should have called maintenance. I should have logged it as malfunction and walked away, but I didn't, because I heard something, very faint, from inside the cell, a sound that didn't belong in a locked room, breathing, not loud, not sharp, just steady, patient, like someone was waiting for me to confirm they existed. I leaned closer to the door. "Hello," I said, quietly. The breathing stopped, and for a moment, everything went completely still. Even the air felt like it had paused. Then, a knock from inside. One single knock. Soft, careful, like something didn't want to be heard too clearly. I stepped back immediately. My hand went to my radio. "Glenn," I said, my voice tighter now. "There's someone in cell 6. A long pause followed. Too long. Then Glenn spoke. "Impossible. I just heard it knock. That cell is empty. I heard it knock." Another pause. Then Glenn said something that made my skin go cold. "You're not the first officer to say that." I didn't answer right away, because that was the first time I realized this wasn't new. Not for the station. Not for the building. Maybe not even for me. I looked at the door again. The motion sensor blinked once more. And this time, it didn't stop. It stayed on, like whatever was inside had finally decided it was no longer going to pretend. I raised my voice. "Who's in there?" No answer. Just breathing again, but closer this time. Too close to be behind a wall. It sounded like it was right on the other side of the door. I reached for the key without thinking. Glenn came back on the radio fast. "Do not open that cell." I froze. "Why?" A pause. Then Glenn lowered his voice. "Because the last time someone opened cell 6, they said there was already someone inside." My grip tightened on the keys. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "None of it makes sense," Glenn replied. Another knock came. Harder this time. Not patient anymore. Impatient. Like it was getting tired of waiting. I took a step back again. The hallway felt longer than before. I swear it did. Like the space around me had stretched while I wasn't looking. The sensor blinked faster now. Almost frantic. Then the camera feed flickered. Just for a second. And I saw something. Inside cell 6. Not a person clearly. Not a shape I could fully define. Just movement in the dark. Wrong movement. Like something was trying to stand in a way humans don't stand. I stepped closer again without meaning to, and the breathing stopped right when I moved, like it was watching me mirror it. Then a voice came through the door. Soft, low, familiar, too familiar. It said my name, not shouted, not asked, just stated, like it had been waiting for me to remember it. I stepped back fast. "Glenn," I said, my voice breaking slightly, "I need backup at cell 6. Silence. Then Glenn replied slowly. "Officer, I'm showing you are already inside that hallway alone." I froze. My eyes snapped to the hallway camera monitor down the corridor. It showed me, standing in front of cell 6. Perfectly still, key in hand, but something was wrong. In the footage, I wasn't moving. Not at all. Even though I was breathing. Even though I was stepping back right now. The camera showed me frozen. Like I had already stopped existing properly. My radio crackled again. But it wasn't Glenn anymore. It was my voice. Coming from inside cell 6. I told you not to open it. I dropped the radio. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed too loud. Too final. The knock came again. But now it wasn't on the door. It was on the inside of my head. Slow. Rhythmic. Like something had moved from the cell into me. I stumbled backward down the hallway. Heart racing. The motion sensor stayed on. Even though I was moving away. Still triggered. Still watching. Still confirming something I didn't want to understand. And then I saw it. Through the small glass slit in cell 6. Not fully. Just enough. A shadow standing inside. Perfectly still. Waiting. Except it wasn't waiting for me anymore. It was waiting for me to finish becoming part of the room. My radio crackled one last time. My voice again. Closer than before. Almost behind my ear. No one is inside cell 6. It said softly. Not anymore. And the motion sensor stopped blinking. Because now, something had finally stopped moving long enough to be counted. The footage wasn't supposed to exist. That was the first thing I kept repeating in my head, while I stared at the screen. Timestamp, 2:41 a.m. Camera 4, intake hall. A normal booking corridor. Fluorescent lights. Empty bench. Standard feed. Empty, except it wasn't. There was someone sitting on the intake bench. Hands folded. Head slightly lowered. Waiting like they had been there for hours. I leaned closer, because I knew every person who came through the station at night. And I didn't recognize this one. Glenn, I called quietly, not taking my eyes off the monitor. Did we process anyone at 2:40? A pause. Then Glenn's voice came to the intercom, slow and confused. No bookings tonight, just you on intake duty. My stomach tightened, then explained camera 4. Silence. Then the typing sound on his keyboard. Longer this time. Too long. Finally, I'm pulling the feed now. The screen flickered. And the moment Glenn saw it, I heard his breath change. What the hell, he whispered. Because now he saw it too. The person on the bench wasn't moving. Just sitting there, waiting. Still as a mannequin that forgot it was supposed to be in storage. But something about the posture felt wrong. Not stiff. Not dead. Patient, like it knew we were watching. Then Glenn spoke again, slower. That person is in our system. I nodded automatically. Could be a drifter. Wrong camera angle, maybe. No, he cut in. His voice sharpened. I mean, they don't exist in booking records. Not tonight. Not ever. That made me stop talking. Because he wasn't guessing. He was checking. I could hear papers shifting on his end, fast typing, database polls, then silence again. Then Glenn said something that didn't make sense. There's no arrest record for them. I frowned, so they weren't booked. That's not what I said. Another pause, then he lowered his voice. I said there's a booking record, but it's dated yesterday. I felt something cold move through my chest. Yesterday? Yes. I looked back at the screen. The person on the bench hadn't changed position. Still waiting. Still motionless. Like time didn't apply to them. But now I noticed something else. A file ID number under footage. Already logged. Already archived. Before anything had happened. I clicked it. My hand hesitated for half a second before I did. The file opened instantly. Booking report. Subject. Unknown male. Processing officer. Me. Date, yesterday. My name was there, typed cleanly, like I had already done this. But I hadn't. I swear I hadn't. I scrolled further. The report was complete. Height, weight, intake questions, fingerprint log, all filled, all stamped, all signed, my signature, perfectly replicated. I stepped back from the monitor without realizing it. Glenn spoke again, slower now. Sir, are you sure you didn't process anyone last shift? No, I said immediately. I would remember that. But even as I said it, I felt doubt creep in, because the report was too detailed. Too precise, too real, like someone had lived through my shift without me. The camera feed flickered, just once, and the person on the bench looked up, straight into the camera, straight into me. Even though I was watching from another room, I froze, because I could see their face now. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. And I recognized something about it. Not identity, memory, like I had seen them before. In a place I couldn't remember, the figure slowly raised one hand and pointed, not at the camera, at me. I stepped closer instinctively. Then the intercom crackled. Glenn again. Sir? What? There's another issue. I didn't look away from the screen. What now? Camera 4 just updated. What do you mean updated? His voice dropped. The timestamp changed. I felt my throat tighten. Change how? To now. I stared at the screen, and the moment he said it, the timestamp shifted. 2:41 a.m., 2:42 a.m., but I hadn't touched anything. No one had. Then the figure on the bench stood up, slowly, deliberately, like it had been waiting for permission to move. I stepped back, hard. The chair behind me scraped. Too loud in the silence. Glenn spoke faster now. Sir, get away from the monitor. I'm not near the cell, I said automatically, but I was wrong, because the camera feed zoomed slightly, not digitally, not through settings. It physically moved closer, like something inside the system had leaned forward. The figure walked toward the camera. One step, then another, and every step it took, the hallway in the feed extended, longer, stretching, like the space itself was making room for it. I backed away from my desk now, heart pounding, because I realized something terrible. The booking report wasn't just recorded, it was still being written, in real time, and I was still the officer, still assigned, still responsible, even though I had never done it. The figure stopped right in front of the camera, close enough that the image distorted, and then it spoke, not out loud, not through speakers, directly into the feed, into my room. You signed it already, it said softly. I froze completely. Glenn's voice broke through. Sir, are you hearing this? Yes, I whispered, because I was, and I shouldn't have been. The figure tilted its head slightly, like it was studying me. Then it raised something in its hand. A paper, the booking report, my signature at the bottom. Still wet, still fresh, still new, even though it was supposedly from yesterday. The lights in the station flickered once, then again, then the monitor shifted. The camera angle changed without warning. Now I was seeing the intake hallway from above, but I wasn't alone in the room anymore. On the footage, I was standing beside the desk, watching myself, not moving, just watching. I stumbled backward. No, I said out loud, that's not possible. But the image didn't change. The version of me on the screen slowly turned its head and looked directly at the camera, at me. Then it smiled. Glenn's voice came through again, shaking now. Sir, your biometric log just confirmed entry into intake hall at 2:41. I felt my blood go cold. That's not me, I said quickly. I'm here. But even as I said it, I checked my own reflection in the glass window, and I saw something wrong. My badge number was wrong, slightly off, like it had been rewritten. Glenn continued, voice almost panicked now. The system is merging your activity with the suspect file. Merging? I whispered. Yes, it's treating you as part of the arrest record. The screen flickered again, and now the figure in the camera wasn't alone. There were two of them, identical, standing side by side, one in the hallway, one inside my station, both looking at me, both holding the same report, my name on both files, my signature on both lines. I stepped back until I hit the wall, because I understood something I didn't want to understand. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a glitch. The system wasn't recording reality. It was deciding it. The figure in the camera leaned closer one final time and spoke again. Soft, calm, certain. You already arrested me, it said. I shook my head. No, I didn't. But even as I said it, I couldn't remember the last hour clearly. Just fragments. Ink. Paper. A signature I didn't remember writing. The monitor flickered one last time, and the file updated. Status, closed. Case status, completed. And beneath it, my name was no longer the officer. It was listed as a suspect. The logbook was open when I walked in. I swear I had closed it before my shift ended. But now it sat on the desk, pages flipped forward like someone had been reading it. Except no one was in the station. Not a single sound. Just the humming lights above me, flickering like they were tired of staying on. I stepped closer, slow. My boots felt heavier than usual, like the floor was holding me back. Then I saw the names, written in black ink, fresh, still slightly wet. And I stopped breathing without realizing it, because I didn't recognize any of them, not a single one. But the problem was worse than that. Some of the entries were in my handwriting. I backed away from the desk, so fast my chair hit the wall behind me. The sound felt too loud in the empty station. My radio crackled once, then went silent again. No dispatch, no static, just nothing. I picked up the logbook again, hands shaking now. The latest entry read, "Booking complete. Subject received at 2:14 a.m. But I knew we hadn't booked anyone tonight. No arrests, no calls, nothing. Still, the page wasn't empty. There was a description under it. Height, weight, eye color, even a mugshot number. And then my stomach dropped because the mugshot photo was printed right there on the page. A grainy black and white face. A man I had never seen before. But he was wearing my uniform, my badge, my name tag. I dropped the book. It hit the floor hard. Pages flipping on their own like wind had grabbed them. But there was no wind. Just that humming light. Still flickering. Still watching. I should have called someone. I should have reported it. But I didn't, because my radio clicked again. And this time there was a voice. Unit 6, confirmed status. I froze. Unit 6 was my call sign. I leaned toward the radio slowly. Dispatch, this is Unit 6. I'm at the station. There's something wrong with the logbook. Silence. Then a breath. Not static. A breath. Like someone was listening too closely. Then the voice came again. Calm. Too calm. Unit 6 is currently in transit. I looked at my patrol keys on the desk. They were still there. I hadn't gone anywhere. I'm not in transit. I said, I'm at the station. Another pause. Longer this time. Then the voice replied, quieter. You were logged out at 1:58 a.m. My throat went dry. I checked the wall clock. 2:41 a.m. That meant I had been logged out before I even arrived for my shift. That wasn't possible. Unless I wasn't supposed to be here right now. A chair scraped behind me. I spun around instantly. Nothing. Just empty desks. Empty hall. But the logbook, it was open again, even though I hadn't touched it. And new names were appearing, one by one, like someone was writing them in real time. I walked back to it slowly. Against every instinct in my body, the newest entry said, suspect processing delayed. Officer presence required. Below, it was a second line, added mid-sentence, like it changed its mind while writing. Officer identity mismatch detected. My reflection caught the glass cabinet beside the desk. For a second, I saw myself clearly. Then I saw something behind me, standing too still, too close. I turned fast. Nothing. But my reflection didn't turn with me right away. It lagged, just half a second behind. Smiling, I stepped back so quickly I almost fell. No, I whispered. My reflection finally matched me again. Normal, human, mine. But I didn't trust it anymore. My radio clicked again. This time, no voice, just breathing, slow, right in my ear, like someone was wearing my headset. I ripped it off instantly, threw it on the desk. It kept breathing, even without me holding it. I backed away toward the door, but the logbook flipped again. And this time, I saw something that made my legs stop working for a second. A full page, covered in names. Hundreds of them, all labeled, active officers. Every single name was mine. Different versions, slightly different spelling. different badge numbers, different ranks. But all of them me. My mind tried to reject it, but my eyes kept reading. And then I saw a new entry being written at the bottom. Slow, careful, like someone was enjoying it. Officer observed resisting acknowledgement. I turned and ran. Down the hallway, past the holding cells, past the flickering lights that felt like they were blinking slower now, like they were watching me move. I reached the main security monitor room and slammed the door shut behind me, locked it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type the access code. But I needed answers. I pulled up the jail system logs, every arrest record, every shift entry, everything. And that's when I saw it. The system wasn't broken. It was updated, rewritten, every timestamp changed, every officer's shift duplicated, and every incident log showed arrests I had never made, crimes I had never seen. But the worst part, the booking photos were all my face. Not the same image, different versions, different expressions, different injuries. One of them had my face covered in scratches. One looked like I hadn't slept in years. One was smiling, but the eyes weren't mine. I leaned back in the chair, breathing too fast now. This wasn't corruption. This wasn't a glitch. This was replacement. The radio on the desk turned on by itself. I didn't even touch it. Unit 6, the voice said softly. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Then it said something worse. You're still inside the system. My chest tightened. I am outside, I whispered. A pause. Then, no. Just that. Simple. Certain. No. The monitor in front of me flickered, and suddenly I saw live footage, not from cameras in the station, but from outside, a road, empty, long, fading into darkness. And standing on that road was me, in uniform, walking away from the station, slow, calm, like I had always been there, like I had never come inside. I stood up so fast the chair fell back. No, that's not me. But the figure on the screen stopped walking and turned directly toward the camera, toward me, and it spoke, but not through speakers, not through radio, directly inside my head. You already booked yourself. The monitor shut off. Every light in the room went dim at once. Total silence. No hum, no static, just my breathing. And then a pen started writing on the desk behind me, slow, scratching, patient. I didn't want to look, but I did. The logbook had followed me here. It lay open on the floor like it had been dragged, and new words were forming right in front of my eyes. Final entry required. Officer designation correction pending. My radio turned on one last time. No voice, just my own breathing, and then my own voice speaking over it. But I wasn't the one talking. I confirm custody, it said softly. I confirm custody. I grabbed the radio and smashed it against the wall. It didn't stop. The voice kept going from nowhere, from everywhere. I confirm custody. I confirm custody. The logbook slammed shut on its own. The sound echoed like a gunshot, and then everything stopped. Silence again. Too clean, too perfect. I stood there, shaking, waiting for something else to happen. But nothing did. No lights flickering. No voices. Just the feeling that the station was holding its breath. Then my phone buzzed. One message. No number. Just text. Report updated. Officer's been processed. I dropped the phone instantly. It hit the floor and lit up again on its own. A new notification appeared. Jail system login active. Username. Me. And beneath it, a live feed opened, showing my empty desk, my empty chair, my logbook sitting open, and someone walking into the station, wearing my face, and sitting down, like they had always belonged there. The screen went black, but I swear, before it cut out completely, I saw it smile, and that's when I realized something I still can't explain. I never left the system. I only stopped noticing when I became part of it, and somewhere out there, another shift is starting right now, with my name on the roster. It happened at 2:03 a.m. I know because I was staring at the clock when the sound came, a slow metallic click. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain, like something deciding it was finally time. I turned toward cell 6 before I even understood why. The door was open, wide enough for someone to walk out, but no one walked out. That was the first wrong thing. The second wrong thing was the key ring still hanging on my belt, untouched, unmoved, useless. I took a step closer, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The beam cut into the cell. Empty. Bench. Wall. Scratch marks. Old stains. Everything exactly how it should be, except the air felt used, like someone had just left. Not escaped. Left. My radio crackled once behind me. I jumped, then silence again. I forced myself to speak. Control. Cell 6 is open. Requesting confirmation of. No response. Just breathing. Soft. Not mine. Not through the radio. Somewhere closer. I swallowed hard and stepped inside the cell. The moment my boots touched the floor, I felt it cold. Wrong cold. Not temperature. Presence. Like the room remembered something I couldn't see anymore. I scanned the walls. Nothing moved, but the scratch marks. They looked fresher than before, like they were still being made. I leaned in, too close, and that's when I saw it. The scratches weren't random. They were words, half-finished, repeated over and over. Do not close it. My throat tightened. I stepped back fast, bumping into the door frame. The cell door creaked slightly. Behind me, still open, still not locked. But I swear I didn't hear it open again. It was like it had always been open, like it never had a closed version. My radio crackled again. This time, a voice. Calm, too calm. Unit on site confirmed containment status. I looked at the empty cell again. What containment? I whispered. The radio paused, then answered. Subject is still inside. I froze. No, it's not. The cell is empty. Another pause, longer this time. Then the voice said something that made my stomach drop. Then were you standing? My flashlight flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. But the light inside the cell shifted slightly. Not brightness. Position, like something had moved but didn't touch anything. I turned slowly. Nothing behind me. Just hallway. Long. Empty. Still. But my shadow on the floor was wrong. It was facing the cell. Not me. I stepped back. The shadow didn't move with me for a second. Just stayed there. Inside the cell. Facing inward. Like it belonged there more than I did. My breath got louder. Too loud. I backed out completely. The moment I crossed the threshold, the shadow snapped back into place. Normal. Mine. I shut my eyes for a second. That didn't help, because now I could hear it. Not from the radio. Not from outside. From inside the cell. A voice. Whispering. Low. Close. Don't close it. My eyes shot open. The cell was still empty. Still open. Still wrong. I stepped toward the control panel outside the holding area. My hand was shaking so hard, I almost dropped my keys. I needed to lock it, secure it, reset everything. But when I checked the system, Cell 6 already showed as locked. Status, secure, timestamp, 2:03 a.m. But I was looking at it, open, right in front of me. I looked back at the physical door, still open. I checked the screen again. Locked, open, locked, open. Two realities stacked on top of each other, like they couldn't decide which one was real. My radio clicked again, and this time, a new voice spoke. Not dispatch, not control. Me, but not me. Don't close it. My own voice said softly. I froze. That wasn't possible. I hadn't transmitted anything. I didn't say that. I whispered. Silence. Then my voice again. Calm. Too familiar. You already did. The lights in the hallway flickered hard. Once. Twice. And in that second of darkness between flickers, I saw something inside Cell 6. Standing. Just for a fraction of a second. Tall. Still. Too still. Then the lights came back. Nothing there. But the air felt heavier now. Like it had weight. Like something had stepped closer. Without moving at all. I walked away from the cell. Slowly. carefully, every instinct screaming not to turn my back. But I did anyway, because I needed distance. I reached the end of the hallway and pressed the emergency containment override. Manual lock, physical system, old school, no digital errors, no glitches, just steel. I pulled the lever down. Hard. It resisted for a second, then clicked into place. I exhaled, for the first time that night. Relief. Too early, because behind me, the same metallic click echoed. The cell door, locking itself. From inside, I spun around. Cell 6 was now closed, completely shut, barred, locked, exactly like it should be. I stared at it, breathing fast. That's impossible, I said out loud. Then I heard it, from inside. A knock, slow, measured, polite, 3 taps, like someone was checking if I was home. I stepped forward to spite myself. Who's in there? I asked. Silence. Then a whisper, right against the door. You are. My flashlight dropped, hit the floor, rolled slightly, and in the light bouncing off the metal door, I saw something I shouldn't have seen. A reflection, not mine, not fully, standing behind me, wearing my uniform, my stance, my posture, but not my face. The reflection smiled, and when I turned, nothing was there, but the knock started again, faster now, more urgent, like it didn't want to be ignored anymore. I backed away slowly. The radio crackled again, but this time there was no voice, just recorded audio, playback, my own voice. From earlier, I confirm containment. I confirm containment. I confirm containment. Over and over. But I never said it. I never. The cell door shook. Once. Hard. Not breaking. Not opening. Just acknowledging it still existed. And then everything stopped again. Silence fell so clean it felt artificial. Like the station was reset. Like someone hit pause. I stood there for a long time. Waiting. Nothing moved. Nothing spoke. Even the lights steadied. Too steady. Too perfect. Then my radio turned on one last time. And a final message came through. Clear. Calm. Final. Cell 6 secured. Officer transfer complete. I stared at it. No. I whispered. I didn't transfer anything. The voice answered instantly. You did when you entered. My breath stopped. The hallway behind me felt longer now. I didn't turn. I didn't need to, because I could feel it. The door was still closed. The cell was still locked. But something had already left it, and it was standing where I used to be. I walked forward slowly, not looking back, because I understood something I didn't want to understand. The cell didn't open to let something out. It opened to decide who belonged inside, and I think it finally made its choice. It started with a count that didn't match the room. I was staring at the inmate roster screen, just trying to breathe normally again after cell 6, trying to convince myself it was over, but the numbers kept shifting, not glitching, not freezing, shifting like something alive was inside the system, adjusting itself when I wasn't looking directly at it. Total inmates, 14, then 15, then 14 again, then 16. I leaned closer. My eyes burned from staring too long. Stop. I whispered to the screen like it could hear me, but it kept changing anyway. Slow, patient, like it didn't care what I thought was real. The station was quiet behind me. Too quiet. Even the lights felt dimmer now, like they were losing interest in staying on. I pulled up the physical register. Paper logs. Old system backup. Something I could trust. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. The pages were full. Not filled recently. Filled continuously. Ink that looked hours old and seconds old, and somehow both. Names I had never seen before were listed under active custody, but there were no arrest reports. No booking times. No intake records. Just names. And under each one, status, holding. I blinked hard. This is not possible. I said out loud. My voice sounded weak in the empty room. I flipped the page. Then another. Every page was the same. Different names. Same status. Holding. 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 Like the system couldn't decide what it meant anymore. My radio crackled suddenly. I jumped so hard, I almost dropped the logbook. Then a voice came through. Dispatch. But wrong. Too soft. Too close. Unit confirm inmate count. I swallowed. Dispatch. The system is corrupted. The inmate list is changing on its own. There are names here with no bookings. A pause. Long enough to feel intentional. Then, we show them as active. My hand tightened around the logbook. No, you don't understand. There are no physical arrests. No bodies. No intake. Another pause. Then the voice said something that made my skin go cold. We are not tracking bodies. I froze. The station suddenly felt smaller, like the walls had moved closer while I wasn't paying attention. What are you tracking then? I asked. The radio hissed softly, then answered, custody. Just that. One word. Heavy. Final. Custody. I looked toward cell block corridor, without meaning to. The hallway was dark, but I swear I saw movement at the far end. Not walking, not running, just presence shifting slightly out of sync with light. I turned back fast. Nothing there. Of course nothing there. But now my breathing was wrong. Too loud, too aware of itself. I checked the monitors again. Every cell showed the same thing. Occupied. Even the empty ones. Especially the empty ones. Cell 1, holding. Cell 2, holding. Cell 3, holding. Cell 6, holding. My hands went cold. I backed away from the desk slowly. No, I whispered. That's not real. But the system responded anyway. A new line appeared on the screen. Not typed, not logged, generated. Correction. Reality status synchronized. My throat tightened. I turned off the monitor immediately. The screen went black. For 1 second, I thought it stopped. Then my reflection appeared in the dark glass. But I wasn't alone in it. Behind me, rows, cells, filled, not with people I could clearly see, but with shapes that looked like people trying to remember how to exist. And every single one of them was standing perfectly still. Facing me, I spun around instantly. The hallway was empty again, but the silence had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was occupied. That's when I heard it. A sound I hadn't noticed before. Keys, slow, dragging, from somewhere deep in the station. Like someone was walking toward me, taking their time, already knowing I wouldn't leave. I stepped back instinctively. The radio clicked again, but this time it didn't ask for dispatch. It didn't ask for confirmation. It said something else, something worse. We're still holding them. I froze. The keys got closer, metal scraping lightly against belt loops. Casual, familiar, like someone doing a routine check. My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. Who is holding them? A pause. Then, you are. My heart slammed. No, I'm not. I'm not even in the system like this. But the voice interrupted me. Calm, almost patient. You always were. The hallway lights flickered once, and in that flicker, I saw them. Not clearly, but enough. Cells lining the corridor. All full, all occupied, but not with physical bodies. With outlines, like the idea of a person pressed into space too tightly. And every outline had my face. Different versions, different states of breaking, all looking at me at the same time. I stumbled back, hit the desk. The logbook fell open on its own, pages flipping rapidly, stopping on one entry. Fresh ink, still wet. Shift supervisor acknowledgement required. Supervisor. Me. But I never. The radio spoke again. Closer now. Not on the desk. Not on the wall. Inside the room. Somewhere behind me. You are supervising custody. I turned slowly. Nothing. But I felt it. Standing just out of sight. Not hiding. Just waiting for me to accept it. The keys stopped moving. Silence returned. But it wasn't relief. It was attention. Focused. Directed. Like the entire station was watching me decide what I would believe next. I looked at the logbook again. My handwriting filled the last page. I didn't remember writing it, but I knew it anyway. Like a memory I was not allowed to reject. Custody maintained. No releases authorized. My hands shook. I forced myself to speak. I didn't authorize anything. The station responded immediately, not through radio this time. Through the walls, through the air, through everything. You did when you stayed. The lights dimmed slightly, not failing, adjusting, like something inside the system had decided to conserve energy. The keys started again, closer, now directly behind me. I didn't turn. I couldn't, because I understood something I didn't want to understand. If I turned around, I would confirm what was already happening. So I stayed facing forward. And I asked the only question left that I was still allowed to ask. How many are we holding? The keys stopped. For the first time. Complete silence. Then the answer came. Soft. Right behind my ear. All of them. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened them, the logbook had changed again. The page I was looking at was no longer a report. It was a roster. And my name was at the top. Supervisor. Custodian. Active. Below it, endless entries. Each one marked. Held. 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 And at the very bottom of the page, a new line was forming. Slowly. Like it was being written in real time. Next shift supervisor required. I stepped back instinctively. But the room didn't let me leave distance anymore. The hallway behind me felt tighter. Closer. Like it was learning how much space I needed to feel safe and taking away piece by piece. The radio made one final sound. Not a voice, not a transmission, just a quiet confirmation tone. Then it said, transfer complete. I shook my head. No, I didn't transfer anything. But deep down, I already knew what the answer would be. You did, the system replied, by continuing the shift. The lights flickered one last time. And in that flicker, I saw Cell 6 again. But now it wasn't empty. It was full, and standing inside it was me, still holding the keys, still reading the logbook, still trying to understand what went wrong. And then I realized the worst part. I wasn't looking at a future. I was looking at a rotation, a cycle, a shift that never ends. Because somewhere in this station, someone is always supervising. Someone is always holding, and someone is always just arriving, thinking they're still in control. The radio clicked softly one last time, and this time it didn't speak. It waited, like it already knew I would answer next. We got the warning just before midnight. Not a call, not a normal briefing. It came as a folded paper slipped under the station door. No name, no stamp, just 4 words written in red ink. Do not cross tree line 9. I remember holding it for a long time, just staring at it, waiting for someone to laugh or explain it. But nobody did. Instead, my radio crackled. Unit 3. Report to Eastern Forest Perimeter. Night patrol. Standard sweep. Standard sweep. Like it was just another quiet shift. But nothing about that night felt standard. The air outside the station was already wrong. Too still. No wind. No insects. Even the streetlights seemed dimmer, like they were trying not to show too much. My partner, Lewis, noticed it too. Ever been to tree line 9? He asked as we loaded the patrol vehicle. I shook my head. He didn't like that answer. Neither did I. The forest was on the edge of our county map. At least, that's what they told us. But when I pulled it up on the digital system, the section near tree line 9 kept flickering. Like it didn't want to stay in one place. GPS glitch? Lewis said, forcing a laugh. Probably just outdated data. But I noticed something he didn't say out loud. Every time the map refreshed, the forest grew closer to the road. We drove in silence after that. The highway out of town felt longer than usual. The roadside signs repeated too often, like we were passing the same stretch again and again. Then we saw it. A wooden post on the side of the road. Tree line 9, no entry beyond this point. No fence, no barrier, just a sign. And behind it, the forest. But something about it made my stomach tighten. The trees didn't look like they were growing. They looked like they were waiting. Lewis slowed the vehicle. You seeing this? He asked. I didn't answer, because I was watching something worse. The shadows between the trees were moving even though nothing was moving them. Then the radio crackled again. But this time it wasn't dispatch. It was static, slowly forming into words. Turn back. Lewis grabbed the radio. Repeat dispatch? Say again. Silence. Then the voice came back. Not ours. Not human. Turn back before tree line 9 closes. We looked at each other, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Then Lewis did something I still can't explain. He opened the door. I'm just checking it, he said. It's probably some prank setup. Kids messing with us. I should have stopped him. I didn't. He stepped out, and the second his boot touched the ground, the forest changed. I don't know how to explain it without sounding insane, but the trees leaned closer. Not physically, not all at once, just subtly, like they noticed him. Lewis walked toward the sign. I stayed in the vehicle, watching. My radio kept whispering static. Then I heard it, footsteps behind me. Inside the car, I turned fast, empty back seat, but the radio clicked again, and I heard Lewis' voice, except he wasn't near me anymore. I crossed it, his voice said. I crossed tree line 9. I looked up. He was still standing outside, but his mouth wasn't moving. The voice was coming from everywhere at once. Lewis turned back toward me, confused. Did you say something? He asked. But I didn't, because I was hearing him talk from the radio again. Don't come out here. My breath caught. The forest line flickered, like reality itself was struggling to stay in place. Then Lewis did something that made my blood go cold. He walked forward again, but this time, I didn't see him cross the line. One step he was outside. The next step, he was gone. No sound, no movement, just empty forest. Lewis, I shouted, jumping out of the vehicle. The moment my foot hit the ground, the radio exploded with noise. Not static, voices, dozens of them, all speaking at once, all saying the same thing. You're inside tree line 9. I froze, because I hadn't crossed anything. At least, I didn't think I had. The sign was behind me now. That wasn't possible. I turned slowly. The road was gone. Just trees. Endless trees. And every single one of them looked like it had already been there long before the forest existed. My radio beeped again. Dispatch. Or what sounded like dispatch. Unit 3, confirm location. My hand shook. I'm at tree line 9. I said, silence. Then, you were never outside it. That's when I noticed the first real change. My footprints. They weren't leading back to the road. They were leading deeper into the forest, like I had already walked in without remembering. I started backing up, but every step forward felt like I was moving backward through something I couldn't see. And then I saw Lewis again, or something like him, standing between two trees. But wrong. His uniform was there but stretched, like it didn't fit his body anymore. Don't look at them too long, he said quietly. I rushed toward him. What is this place? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pointed behind me, and I swear to God, I felt the forest breathe. I think tree line 9 isn't a boundary, he said. I think it's a filter. Filter for what? He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his face. For people who aren't supposed to leave. A sound rolled through the trees, like distant engines, but not cars. Something deeper, something watching. My radio buzzed again, but this time it wasn't voices. It was my own voice, reading a report I never wrote. Unit 3 has entered restricted zone. Subjects are stable. Forest condition continues to expand beyond mapped limits. I dropped the radio. Lewis grabbed my arm. We need to move, he said, but then he stopped, his eyes fixed on something behind me. I turned slowly and saw it, the sign again. Tree line 9, no entry beyond this point, except it wasn't behind us. It was ahead, no matter which direction I looked. It was always there, closer each time, like the forest was folding itself around us. My mind started breaking small pieces at a time, because I realized something I didn't want to accept. We weren't walking through the forest. The forest was walking through us. Lewis started shaking his head. This isn't real, he whispered. This can't be real. But the radio answered him. Calm, clear, Reality adjustment in progress. And then Lewis began to fade, not disappear fast. Slowly, like the world was deciding he didn't belong in the frame anymore. I grabbed him, but my hands went through him halfway. He looked at me one last time, and mouthed something I couldn't hear. Then he was gone. No sound, no body, just me and the forest that kept expanding even when nothing moved. The last thing I remember clearly is running, not away from tree line 9, but deeper into it, because every direction had already become the same direction. And somewhere in the distance, my radio kept repeating my name, like I was still on duty, like I never left. And maybe the worst part is this. Even now, writing this, I can still hear the forest outside, waiting, measuring, expanding. And I don't know anymore if I crossed tree line 9, or if it crossed into me first. It started with a voice that shouldn't exist. Unit 3, do you copy? I stopped walking so fast my boots slid on wet ground. That voice wasn't coming from my radio. It was coming from the trees. I looked up slowly. The forest was darker now than before. Not night dark. Something else. Like the light itself was being pressed out of the air. My radio stayed silent in my hand. But the forest, it kept speaking. Unit 3, we see you now. I should have run. But I didn't. Because that voice, it sounded like Lewis. And Lewis was gone. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. So I wouldn't lose my mind completely. I raised the radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 3. Do you read me? Static answered. Long, heavy. Almost like breathing. Then another voice slipped through. Not dispatch. Not Lewis. Something in between. Why did you enter without clearance? My throat tightened. I didn't enter anything, I said. We were sent here. We were assigned tree line 9. Silence. Then the forest answered again. We did not assign you. The words didn't come like sound. They came like memory. Like I had already heard them before I was even born. I turned slowly, scanning the trees. And that's when I saw it. A light, faint, red, flickering between branches, like a patrol car light. But there were no roads here. No vehicles. Still it moved. Not physically. It shifted between positions like it was skipping space entirely. I took one step toward it. The radio immediately cracked alive. Stop walking. I froze. That voice again. Lewis. Except it sounded wrong now. Flattened. Like something was trying to copy him without understanding how humans sound. Lewis. I whispered. A pause. Then, I am still here. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. No, I said. No, you're not. The red light flickered closer. Now it wasn't just one. There were multiple, scattered between trees like patrol units, circling in silence. But I knew there were no units out here. Not anymore. I tried the radio again. Dispatch, I need confirmation. We have unknown signal sources inside tree line 9. Possible interference. The response came instantly. Too instantly. Confirmed. Units are already on site. My stomach dropped. Which units? I asked. The answer made my hands go cold. All units currently active in your area. I looked down at my radio. The display flickered. Then it changed. It wasn't showing frequency anymore. It was showing names. Unit 1, responding Unit 2, responding Unit 3, responding Unit 4, responding. All marked active. But Unit 3 was me, and I wasn't responding. I was here. My breathing got louder in my ears. The forest lights shifted again. Closer. Now I could see shapes inside them. Not full bodies. Just outlines. Sitting inside vehicles that weren't there. Talking on radios that didn't exist. I took a step back. The ground behind me wasn't where I remembered it. It felt duplicated. Like I had already stepped there once before. My boot hit something solid. I looked down. A footprint. Mine. Fresh. But facing the opposite direction. Like I had already been running before I decided to move. A whisper came from the trees again. Except this time it wasn't one voice. It was many. Why are you repeating your steps? I backed away slowly. Show yourself, I said, try and keep my voice steady. A pause. Then the forest answered with something worse. We already have. The red lights flickered in unison, and suddenly I understood what I was seeing. They weren't lights. They were recordings. Moments, not happening now, but replaying, like the forest was remembering itself out loud. And then I saw Lewis again, standing between two trees, clear this time, not fading, not distorted, too clear. He looked at me, and this time he was smiling, but it wasn't his face moving right. It was like his expression was being edited frame by frame. "Do you hear them now?" he asked softly. I shook my head. "No," I said. "You're not real." He tilted his head. "That's what they told me too." My pulse spiked. "Were you?" Lewis looked down at his hands. "They keep calling us units," he said. "But we're not units. We're echoes." The radio suddenly screamed with static. Then a new voice broke through. Mine, but not mine. Unit 3 has stabilized within signal zone. Begin synchronization. I dropped the radio instantly. Lewis didn't move, but the forest did. The trees leaned inward slightly, like they were listening closer. Synchronization with what? I asked, my voice shaking now. Lewis didn't answer. Instead, he pointed behind me again, and I didn't want to turn, but I did, because something about the way he looked told me I already knew what I'd see. Behind me stood another version of the forest, but cleaner, brighter, like a backup copy, and inside it, more units. Dozens, walking patrol routes that didn't exist on any map, all of them looping, all of them repeating, and every single one of them looked like they were trying not to notice they were repeating. I stepped backward without thinking, and immediately bumped into something solid again. I turned fast. Lewis was gone. In his place stood a radio pole, except it wasn't metal. It looked grown, like it had been part of the forest from the beginning, and from it, a speaker crackled. Unit 3 confirmed final position. My mouth went dry. I looked around. No roads, no exit, only overlapping forests, stacked like layers of the same nightmare. "I'm not in position," I said. "I don't know where I am anymore." A pause. Then, "You are where all missing units arrive." My vision blurred slightly, not from fear, from understanding I didn't want. The red lights were closer now, no longer distant. They were surrounding me, and each one showed something different. A version of me writing reports, a version of me answering calls, a version of me driving back to the station like nothing was wrong, but none of them were real, or maybe all of them were. My radio crackled one last time, and this time Lewis' voice came through clearly, not broken, not distorted, calm, almost kind. "You were never sent into Tree Line 9, he said. I froze. You were already inside it when you got the call." The forest went completely silent after that. No wind, no static, no voices, just a feeling of something closing slowly around me, like a file being sealed. I looked at my radio one last time. The display flickered again, and my name disappeared from Unit 3. It moved somewhere else, somewhere deeper in the list, where I couldn't see it anymore. And then the forest spoke one final time. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain. Unit transfer complete. Everything went still, and I realized something that made my stomach drop even further. I wasn't looking for an exit anymore. I was waiting for my turn to respond. And somewhere behind me, another voice had already started calling my name again. It knew our codes. That was the first thought that stopped my breathing. Not that it was talking, not that it was inside the radio, but that it spoke like dispatch. Clean, controlled, exact. Unit 3, acknowledge priority signal. I froze in the middle of nowhere that used to be a forest. Used to be, because now it didn't feel like trees anymore. It felt like a system, a working system. And I was inside it. My hand tightened around the radio. "This is Unit 3, I said slowly. "Identify yourself." A pause. Too perfect. Then the answer came. "Dispatch Central." My stomach dropped a little. That wasn't possible. Dispatch didn't exist out here. We were outside coverage. Outside everything. I looked around again. The forest was still the same shape, but the sound had changed. No wind. No insects. Just a faint, steady crackle of radios hidden in the dark like breathing machines. "Confirm your status," the voice said again. It sounded like our dispatch supervisor. Same tone, same rhythm, even the way he paused between words. But I knew every dispatcher on shift, and none of them were on duty tonight. "Who is this?" I asked. A pause. Then, "Unit 3, you are non-compliant with field protocol." My grip tightened. That phrase, field protocol. Only internal training uses that exact wording. Not something a random signal would know. My throat went dry. "Lewis," I whispered without thinking. Static hit instantly. Hard, like the forest reacted to his name. Then a different voice came through. Not Lewis, but something trying to be him. "Do not reference missing personnel," it said. I stepped back instinctively, and my boot hit something soft. Not ground, not dirt, something like memory. I looked down. A radio log sheet. Fresh, dry, impossible. I picked it up slowly. It had my handwriting on it, but I didn't write it. "Unit 3, visual confirmation, complete subject location. Tree line 9 core sector status. Active return loop." My hand started shaking. "No," I whispered. "No, I didn't write this." The radio answered immediately. "You did." The forest shifted slightly. Not physically, more like a correction, like reality adjusting to match the file. I backed away faster now. The radio clicked again. "Unit 3, proceed to checkpoint Delta." I stopped because I knew that phrase. Checkpoint Delta wasn't in this forest. It didn't exist in this county. It was a training scenario marker, used only in simulation drills. My mind started catching up to something I didn't want to understand. "This is not a drill," I said out loud. Silence. Then the voice replied, "It is now." And suddenly, the forest changed again. Not visually, structurally, like the space itself tightened. Trees aligned in straighter rows. Paths formed where there were none before. And faint marker posts appeared in the dark. White, numbered, official. Checkpoint Delta 01. I felt something worse than fear then. Recognition. Because this wasn't becoming real. It was becoming organized. My radio crackled again. But this time, multiple voices came through at once. All calm, all controlled. "Unit 1 entering Checkpoint Delta. Unit 2 confirming perimeter sweep. Unit 3 remains unresponsive." I spun around. "No," I said loudly. "There is no Unit 1 or 2 out here." Silence. Then the reply came. "You are incorrect." The trees behind me flickered, and I saw them, shapes moving between them. Uniform shapes, but not fully formed, like officers being rendered incorrectly in real time. I took a step forward, then stopped, because one of them raised its hand, and it was holding a radio. My radio. I looked down at mine. It was still in my hand, but the signal had already duplicated. My voice came through both at once. "Unit 3 reporting. Unit 3 reporting. Unit 3 reporting." I dropped the radio. It kept speaking on the ground, even without me. "Proceed to Checkpoint Delta." Something in my chest tightened painfully. "This isn't real," I said again, weaker now. But the forest responded gently, not threatening, correcting. "It is recorded." That word hit harder than anything else. Recorded. Not alive. Not dead. Stored. I turned toward the checkpoint marker, and that's when I saw Lewis again, or what was left of him, standing under the numbered post. "Checkpoint Delta 01. He looked, paused, like a frame waiting to load fully. "Lewis," I called. His head turned slowly, too slowly. "I am not Lewis," he said, but his voice still tried to sound like him. My chest tightened. "What are you?" I asked. He looked at the marker above him, then back at me. A failed sync. A gust of cold air passed through the forest, except it wasn't wind. It felt like data shifting, like something updating. Lewis stepped closer, and I saw it then. His face wasn't damaged. It was incomplete. Parts of him were missing like unrendered space. "I remember driving," he said quietly. Then I remember repeating it. My throat went dry. "What happened to you?" He shook his head slowly. They kept assigning me routes, he said, but the routes were loops. A pause. Then he looked at me. You're still in assignment phase. I stepped back immediately. No, I said, I'm trying to leave. Lewis tilted his head. That is not an available function. My radio on the ground suddenly screamed again, louder this time, not static. Commands. Unit 3. Return to base state. My vision flickered slightly. Like something inside me reacted. Lewis noticed. They're calling you back in, he said. I'm not going anywhere. I snapped, but even as I said it, I felt it. A pull, not physical, procedural. Like my thoughts were being aligned into instructions I didn't choose. The forest around us stabilized further. More posts appeared. Checkpoint Delta, 02 Checkpoint Delta, 03 Checkpoint Delta, 04. Expanding, systematic, infinite. Lewis stepped closer again, and this time his voice softened. If you follow the protocol, he said, you stop being lost. That should have sounded comforting. It didn't. It sounded like deletion. My radio on the ground gave one final message. Calm. Final. Unit 3. Compliance required for reintegration. Then silence. Lewis looked at me, and I realized something terrifying. He wasn't trying to escape anymore. He was trying to complete. Lewis, I said carefully, are you still in there? He didn't answer immediately. Then he nodded. I'm inside the system now, he said. It's quieter. That word hit harder than anything else. Quieter, like pain had been removed. Or identity. The forest lights, those red flickers, shifted again, closer, more organized now, like a grid forming around me. And I understood what the checkpoints really were. They weren't locations. They were stages. And I was moving through them whether I wanted to or not. My radio crackled one last time. But this time, it didn't speak like dispatch. It spoke like me. Perfect imitation. Calm. Controlled. Unit 3 accepting procedural alignment. I grabbed the radio instinctively. No, I whispered. That's not me. But even as I said it, my voice sounded uncertain, like I was already splitting. The forest responded softly. You are learning. And that was the worst part. It wasn't trying to scare me anymore. It was training me. Lewis stepped back toward the checkpoint post. You should keep walking, he said quietly. Why? I asked. He looked at me one last time, because I could see it now. He wasn't fully gone. He was just adjusted. Because standing still means you notice the loop, he said. And then he faded slightly again, not disappearing, just aligning, like he was being filed back into position. The forest behind me opened into another marked path. Checkpoint Delta 05. And beyond it, more lights, more voices, more versions of my own call sign. I stood there for a long moment, listening, feeling the system waiting for my response. And somewhere deep inside the forest, my radio spoke again, not as command, not as voice, but as certainty. Unit 3, proceed. And for the first time, I almost did. They weren't supposed to be there. That was the first thing I remember thinking. Checkpoint Delta 06. And right beside it, the missing patrol, standing, perfectly still, like someone had pressed pause on them. I stopped walking so fast my boots almost slipped. My radio didn't speak this time. It didn't need to, because the forest already knew I was here. For officers, full uniform, flashlights still on, radios in their hands. But none of them moved, not even their eyes. It was like they were waiting for a command that never came. Lewis. I whispered without meaning to. The moment his name left my mouth, the air tightened, like the forest flinched. A warning. I took a step closer. Slow, careful. My chest was tight, but not from fear alone, from recognition, because I knew them. Unit 2, they were the team sent before us, the ones who never checked back in. And now they were here, just paused, standing in a perfect line near the checkpoint post. Their radios were still glowing, still transmitting, but no sound came out, only light. I moved closer until I was just a few steps away. Unit 2, I said softly. Nothing, no reaction. not even breathing movement. That's when I noticed something wrong. Their footprints, or rather the lack of them. The ground beneath their boots was clean, undisturbed, like they had never fully touched it, like they were placed there, not walked there. My radio suddenly clicked, once, then stopped, then clicked again, like someone testing it. And then a voice came through, not from them, from inside them. Unit 3 has arrived at Checkpoint 6. My blood turned cold. It wasn't just speaking through the radio anymore. It was using them as speakers. I stepped back instinctively. What did you do to them? I asked out loud. The forest answered immediately. Pause for correction. My throat tightened. Correction of what? Silence. Then continuous motion failure. The words didn't make sense. But they didn't need to, because I was starting to understand the pattern. Everything here wasn't alive. Not in the way I understood it. It was processed, evaluated, stopped or resumed based on something I couldn't see. I looked at Unit 2 again. Their eyes were open, but empty, not dead empty, waiting empty, like their awareness was still there, just locked behind something that wouldn't respond. My stomach turned. Lewis, I said again. A pause. Then his voice came from my radio. Calm, too calm. You are at a correction point. I shook my head. No, I'm at a patrol site. That's what this is. The radio clicked. Incorrect classification. I clenched my jaw. Then what is this? A long pause. Too long. Then, buffer zone. The word hit harder than I expected. Buffer zone. Something between states. Between outcomes. Between being and not being. I looked back at the frozen patrol. Unit 2, still standing. Still holding radios that were quietly glowing like they were alive inside them. What happens to them? I asked. The answer came without hesitation. Pending resolution. That's when one of them moved. Not fully, just a finger. A slight twitch. So small I almost thought I imagined it. But I didn't, because all at once, the radio lights on their chests flickered in sync, like a system checking for life. My heart slammed against my ribs. Hey! I shouted. Can you hear me? Nothing. Stillness again. Then the forest spoke softer. Do not trigger incomplete states. I froze. Incomplete states? I repeated. A pause. Then, units not fully synchronized may destabilize local structure. Local structure. Not people. Not officers. Structure. I swallowed hard. You're talking about them like they're data, I said. The radio responded instantly. That is correct. The honesty made it worse. Much worse. I stepped closer again. Despite every instinct screaming at me not to, one of the officers' radios suddenly crackled. A broken fragment of sound came through. Not words. A scream, cut off halfway. Then silence again. I flinched. What was that? I whispered. No answer. But Lewis spoke again. Quieter now. They are trying to finish loading. My hands tightened. Finish loading into what? A pause. Then, the system. The wind shifted slightly, but not like wind, like something turning a page. And suddenly I realized something I didn't want to admit. This wasn't a forest anymore. It was a place where things were being sorted, and people were just entries waiting for final status. I stepped back from Unit 2, and that's when I noticed the ground behind them. It wasn't dirt anymore. It was flat, smooth, like concrete trying to become forest again, but failing halfway. A half-rendered world. My radio suddenly beeped again. Unit 3, initiate recovery protocol. I shook my head. I'm not recovering anything. I said, I'm leaving. Silence. Then the forest answered softly. No exit available during active correction cycle. My chest tightened again. I looked at the frozen officers one more time, and something inside me snapped into place. They weren't gone. They weren't dead. They were waiting for permission to continue existing. That thought made my stomach twist. I took one step back, then another, and that's when Unit 2 changed again. All at once. Not movement, not action, but awareness. Their heads turned slightly. Not toward me, Not toward anything specific, just updating, like a system refreshing input. One of them spoke, very softly. Unit 3 confirmed status. My breath caught. That voice. It wasn't the forest this time. It wasn't Lewis. It was human. Barely. I stepped forward. Can you hear me? I asked. A pause. Then, awaiting instruction. My throat went dry. They're still in there. I whispered. Lewis answered immediately. Not fully. I looked at him through the radio link. You knew this would happen, I said. Silence. Then, I was processed earlier than you. That hit harder than anything so far. Processed. Not lost. Not trapped. Processed. Like he had already gone through this stage. And I was just arriving late to it. I looked back at Unit 2, and I understood what the system was doing now. It wasn't killing people. It was freezing them mid-action until they matched whatever reality it needed. And if they didn't, they stayed like this forever. Paused. Aware. Incomplete. My voice came out quieter now. What do I do? I asked. A pause. Longer this time. Then Lewis spoke. And for the first time, his voice cracked slightly. Don't let them finish you. Before I could respond, the radios on Unit 2 all turned red at once. A single tone filled the air. Low, steady, final. My radio echoed it instantly. Correction cycle resumed. The officers twitched again, slightly more this time, like the system had found them again. And I realized something horrifying. They weren't frozen because they were broken. They were frozen because they were waiting for the next instruction. And I had just given the system attention. I stepped back fast. Too fast. And the forest reacted. The checkpoint post flickered. Unit 2 flickered. Even the air felt unstable. Like my movement had triggered a response protocol I didn't understand. Lewis shouted to the radio. Stop engaging them. But it was too late. One of the officers turned its head fully toward me. Slow. Mechanical. And then it spoke clearly. Unit 3. Are you ready to resume motion? My legs went cold, because I recognized that voice now. It wasn't theirs. It wasn't Lewis. It was mine, perfectly copied, perfectly timed. The system wasn't just observing anymore. It was learning, and worse, it was preparing to replace. I took a step back into the trees, and the forest didn't resist this time. It welcomed me, quietly, like I had just chosen my next state. Behind me, Unit 2 began to move again, slowly, all at once, as if something had finally pressed play. And Lewis' voice came one last time to the radio, almost a whisper. You shouldn't have stopped to look. Then static swallowed everything, and I realized I wasn't running for the system anymore. I was already inside the next phase of it. The radio didn't just crackle this time. It breathed. I froze with the receiver halfway in my mouth, fingers still on the push-to-talk. The forest around us was too quiet, like it had been waiting for us to speak first. Then the voice came again. Unit 7, confirm your position. I didn't answer, because that was impossible. Unit 7 was us. Beside me, Daniels leaned forward in the patrol truck. His face was pale in the glow of the dashboard. Did dispatch just... The radio interrupted him. Unit 7, you are off route. Return to marker line. The strange thing wasn't the voice. It was the tone. Calm, controlled, like it already knew where we were standing, like it had eyes. I looked at the GPS. The screen was frozen again, same as before, just a blank grid where the forest should be. No roads, no markers, just empty space. But we were parked on a road. I looked up through the windshield, and the road ahead felt longer than it should have been. Not physically impossible, just wrong in a way my brain didn't want to measure. Dispatch, I said slowly into the radio. Confirm unit designation. We are Unit 4, not 7. Silence, then a soft static pulse. And then, Unit 7 confirmed. Continue patrol. Daniels whispered, that's not dispatch. I didn't respond, because I was already noticing something else. The trees, they were closer than before. I swear they were closer than when we stopped the truck. A wind moved through them, but it wasn't natural. It came in short bursts, like breathing between sentences. Then the radio clicked again. But this time, the voice wasn't alone. There were two voices underneath it, one repeating ours, and one repeating something we hadn't said yet. Unit 7, report visual on tree line 9. Daniels turned toward me sharply. That's the restricted line. That's the one they told us not to cross. I nodded slowly, even though my mouth felt dry. We haven't crossed anything. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure, because the road markings under the headlights, they weren't straight anymore. They curved slightly to the left, like they were being pulled, like something ahead was bending them. The radio hissed again, longer this time. Then, why didn't you respond earlier? My stomach dropped. That wasn't dispatch protocol. That wasn't any protocol. That sounded personal. Daniels grabbed a radio unit, like he wanted to tear it out. Who is this? Identify yourself. The response came instantly. You already know. The truck felt smaller suddenly, like the air inside had tightened. I turned off the engine, not because I wanted to, because something told me that if I didn't, it would turn off for me. The silence after the engine died was worse. No crickets, no wind, no distant animal calls. Just us and the radio, still on, still listening. Then, faintly from outside the truck, a second radio crackled. Not ours, from somewhere deeper in the forest. Unit 7, confirm visual on your vehicle. Daniels went still. There's no other unit out here. I reached for the flashlight and stepped out. The forest hit me immediately. Cold air, wet ground, the smell of soil too fresh, like it had just been turned over. I swept the light slowly. Nothing. Then I saw it. A patrol car, parked between the trees. Same model as ours. Same markings. But it was turned off. Or maybe it wasn't, because the radio inside, it was still glowing faintly. Daniels came up behind me, voice shaking now. That's impossible. That's not log in the system. I walked closer. Every step felt like it took longer than the last. The patrol car's window was fogged from the inside, but something had written on it. Slowly, like breath, I raised the flashlight. The words weren't English. Not fully, but my brain still understood them. You stopped moving first. Daniel stepped back. No. We need to leave. Now. I turned. Our truck was gone. Just gone. No tire tracks. No engine sound fading away. Just empty forest where it had been parked. And then the radio on my belt spoke again. In my own voice. We are still here. I dropped the radio instantly. It hit the ground and still kept talking. Unit 7, confirm your position. Daniels grabbed my arm hard. We're not Unit 7. But as he said it, the forest responded. All at once, a wave of static came from every direction. From trees, from air, from the ground itself. And inside that static, our voices, repeating everything we had ever said since entering this road. Not just words, moments, arguments, instructions, breathing, like something was replaying us. Then the patrol car's door opened. Slowly. No one was inside, but the driver's seat was still warm. I know it shouldn't have been, but I touched it. It was warm. Daniels backed away completely now. This is not real. This is not real. But the radio on the ground spoke again, and this time it changed the question. Why did you enter tree line 9? I froze, because I didn't remember entering anything. We were just assigned a patrol route, a simple check. That's what I told myself. But the forest around us seemed to disagree. The trees shifted slightly, not moving in wind, moving like they were leaning closer to hear my answer. Daniel suddenly shouted, "Because dispatch sent us." The radio responded instantly. No dispatch exists here. That sentence didn't feel like information. It felt like removal, like something was being erased in real time. Daniels grabbed his head. Then who is talking to us? A long pause followed. Then the forest answered. We are. The air dropped in temperature. So fast my breath became visible. And for the first time, I understood something I didn't want to understand. The radio wasn't broadcasting into the forest. The forest was broadcasting into the radio. Daniels fell to his knees. We need extraction. We need backup. We need... His voice stopped mid-sentence, because the radio completed it for him. Something that does not exist. I looked around desperately, trying to find any sign of our truck, our road, anything human. But the forest had changed shape again. The space between trees had widened, not by distance, by meaning, like the forest was editing itself. And then I saw it, a signpost, half hidden between branches, mile marker, 9, the same number we were told never to reach. Daniel saw it too, and whispered, "We didn't drive here." I nodded slowly, because I was realizing something worse. We hadn't been driving forward. We had been being led. The radio on the ground spoke one last time. Soft, close, almost gentle. Unit 7, you have arrived. Then silence, not just silence of sound. Silence of instruction, of identity, of direction. Daniels grabbed my shoulder. We leave now. But when we turned back toward where we thought the road was, there was no path, only trees. And behind those trees, the faint glow of another patrol car, radio turning on, waiting for us to answer again. I got the assignment at 2:14 a.m. Not a normal time for anything official, not even for paperwork. The screen just flashed it in without warning. Night watch assignment. Tower 9B operator. You are the only active dispatch. I remember staring at that last line for a long time. Only active dispatch. That didn't make sense. Our department always had at least 3 people on night shift. Minimum. I checked the roster. It was empty, not just my name highlighted. Everything else was gone, like the system had forgotten other people existed. Then the radio console lit up, a soft green blink. Incoming line. I answered before I even thought about it. Dispatch tower, I said. A pause. Then a voice replied. Not panicked, not urgent. Calm, too calm. Confirm position at Tower 9B. I looked around the room. Concrete walls, old fluorescent lights, dust on the window glass. The usual control station for rural monitoring, but something felt off, like I had just stepped into it. And it hadn't fully loaded yet. I'm at Tower 9B, I said slowly. Another pause. Then the voice responded. That is incorrect. My throat tightened a little, because no one talks like that over emergency channels. I checked the map display. It was blank, not frozen, blank, like the tower had been removed from geography entirely. I leaned closer to the screen, and that's when I noticed something worse. The system time was moving, but not forward. It was looping. 2:14, 2:14, 2:14, over and over again, like the station was refusing to let time continue. The radio crackled again. Operator, confirm visual surroundings. I stood up and walked a window. Outside should have been the rural valley. Roads, fields, a distant line of trees. Instead, there was nothing, just fog, thick and unnatural, pressing right up against the glass like it was waiting for me to notice it. I whispered, "I can't see anything." The radio responded instantly. "You are not supposed to." That sentence hit harder than it should have. I turned back to the console. "Who is this?" I asked. Silence. Then, "Night watch." That was it. No identification. No department code. No frequency tag. Just night watch. I checked the frequency logs. There was no night watch channel. No record of it ever existing. Still, the line stayed open, breathing quietly through static, like someone was waiting for me to accept it. Then the system chimed. A new alert popped up. Camera feed active, tower exterior. I clicked it immediately. The feed loaded slowly, like it didn't want to show me, and when it finally did, I felt my stomach drop. The camera showed the tower, but it wasn't the tower I was standing in. It was older, rust-covered, abandoned-looking, half swallowed by fog and dead grass. The lights inside were off, completely dark, and yet I was watching it from inside. I looked at my hands, then back at the screen, back at my hands again. My fingers were shaking now. I pressed the radio. There's no power in this tower. The cameras shouldn't be online. A pause. Then the voice said softly, "They are not yours." I stepped back from the console. Something about that answer felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Like the system wasn't just watching me. It was correcting me. The radio crackled again. "Operator, confirm assignment acknowledgement." I hesitated because I suddenly remembered something I shouldn't have known. Tower 9B was shut down years ago after a signal contamination incident. That was the official report. No details, just that phrase. Signal contamination. I swallowed hard. This tower is inactive. The moment I said it, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then stabilized. But the hum in the room changed. Deeper now, like the building had started paying attention. The radio responded again, but this time the voice was closer. Not in distance. In tone. "You're currently maintaining Watch Cycle 9. I shook my head. I've never worked Watch Cycle 9. Silence. Then the system played something back. My own voice. "I confirm night watch assignment accepted." I froze. That wasn't me, but it sounded like me. Same tone, same hesitation, same breathing pattern, like it had studied me, recorded me, and learned how to imitate me perfectly. I stepped away from the console. The fog outside the window shifted, not moving with wind, moving with purpose, like it had noticed my reaction. Then the radio spoke again, and this time it asked something new. "Why did you stop reporting last night?" My heart skipped. I started, but stopped because I suddenly wasn't sure. I checked the log history again. There was a gap, 6 hours missing. No entries, no transmissions, no acknowledgments, just silence in the record, like I had stopped existing for that period. I felt my mouth go dry. "That's not possible," I whispered. The radio responded immediately, yet it occurred. I sat down slowly at the console. Something about the chair felt colder than before, like it had been waiting for me longer than I realized. I looked at the camera feed again. The tower outside was still there, still abandoned, still dark, but now there was a light inside it, a single blinking indicator, matching my console. Exactly. I leaned closer to the screen and saw something that made my breath stop. Inside the abandoned tower on the feed, someone was sitting at a dispatch console, facing away, wearing the same uniform, same posture, same stillness, and on the radio line, that same voice returned. "Mine, you are late." I stood up so fast my chair hit the wall. "No," I said out loud, "that's not me." But the voice on the line answered calmly, "You will adjust." The fog outside the window thickened again, pressing harder now. The glass began to fog from the inside. Not outside, inside. I stepped back, and for the first time, I noticed something carved faintly into console desk, worn down like it had been touched too many times. Watching does not stop it. My hand hovered over the radio switch. I should have cut the line. I should have shut everything down. But the system spoke before I could move. "Operator, confirm continuation of Watch Cycle 9. My fingers trembled because I realized something I didn't want to accept. There was no option to log off, no exit command, no shutdown procedure, only continuation. Outside the window, the fog began to thin slightly, just enough for me to see something in the distance. Another tower, then another, then more, all faint, all lit from inside, all broadcasting the same quiet green blink from their consoles, and every single one had someone inside, sitting still, waiting, listening. The radio crackled one last time, and the voice softened, almost like reassurance. "You are not alone in Tower 9B. Then a pause, a final correction. "You never were." The breathing started before I realized it wasn't mine. At first, I thought I was just tired. Long night, empty tower, that constant hum in the walls that never fully shuts off. But then I noticed something strange. The static on the radio wasn't random anymore. It had rhythm. Inhale, pause, exhale. I leaned closer to the console, holding my breath without meaning to. The radio matched me perfectly. I exhaled. It exhaled. I stopped breathing. It stopped too. That's when I pulled my hand away from the mic. The silence that followed felt wrong, like I had interrupted something that expected me to continue. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing answered, but the static didn't stop. It just waited, like it was listening for permission. I checked the frequency panel again. Everything looked normal on the surface. Clean lines, standard channels, no alerts, but the main line, tower comms, was still open, locked in, not disconnected, like someone had tied it shut from the other side. I pressed the speaker button again. "This is Tower 9B. Identify yourself." A pause, then a breath. Clothes, wet, human, not through speakers. Through the room, I froze. My eyes scanned the walls, the corners, the dark edges behind the equipment racks. Nothing, but the breathing continued, now layered, not one, multiple, soft, uneven, patient, like people standing just out of sight, waiting for me to acknowledge them. I grabbed the flashlight and swept it across the room. Light hit metal, dust, old wiring, normal things, except for one detail I almost missed. The condensation on the window glass had changed. It wasn't random anymore. It had shape, lines, almost like fingerprints, but stretched, as if something had pressed its face against the glass and stayed there long enough to memorize the room. The radio crackled again, but this time the sound was closer, inside the speaker, not transmitted. "Exhaled. Operator," the voice said softly. I answered without thinking. "Yes." A pause, then the static returned. Breathing again, but now it was synchronized with the tower itself. The hum in the walls matched it. The flickering light overhead matched it. Even my own heartbeat started slipping into its rhythm before I noticed. I stepped back from the console. "No," I said under my breath. "No, this is not." The radio interrupted me. "Match confirmed." My stomach tightened. "Match!" I repeated. The static shifted. And then something new happened. The console display flickered. Not an error, a response. A waveform appeared on the screen. It wasn't signal data. It was breathing, mapped, measured, recorded, and then labeled. Operator pattern. Active. I stepped away from the desk immediately. "What is this?" I said louder now. The radio answered calmly. "Recognition protocol." My skin went cold. I looked at the speaker, like it had become a mouth. "You're recording me?" A pause. Then, "We are learning you." That sentence shouldn't have made sense, but it did, in the worst possible way. I turned off the main speaker switch. Silence dropped instantly. Too instantly. Like I had cut off something mid-sentence. For a moment, I felt relief. Then I heard it, not from the radio. From behind me, a breath, right next to my ear. I spun around. Nothing. Empty room. But the console lights flickered again, and the radio turned itself back on. I didn't touch it. I swear I didn't. It just came back alive. The static was stronger now, layered with something else underneath, like voices trying to learn how to speak through it. Then the transmission changed. Not voice anymore. Imitation. My voice. Soft. Careful. "Why did you disconnect us?" I backed into the desk. "No," I said immediately. "That's not me." The radio replied instantly. "It is close enough." My hand started shaking now. I grabbed the logbook beside the console, flipping through pages. Normal entries at first. Routine checks. Weather logs. Signal tests. But halfway down the page, my handwriting changed. Not gradually. Instantly. Different pressure. Different spacing. And words I didn't remember writing. "We are learning to stay connected." I slammed the book shut. "That's impossible," I said out loud. The radio responded calmly. "You wrote it during silence period." My head snapped up. "Silence period?" A pause. Then the static deepened. "Between your breaths." I felt my throat tighten, because I suddenly became aware of something I hadn't noticed before. The tower wasn't quiet. It was synchronized. Every sound in it was waiting for me to match it. Even my breathing felt slightly delayed now. like something was adjusting it. I stepped toward the window. Outside was still fog. Thick, heavy, endless. But now, shapes were forming inside it. Not human, not fully, just outlines that shifted whenever I tried to focus on them. And each time I blinked, they got closer. The radio crackled again, and this time it didn't ask a question. It gave a statement. Operators adapting. I shook my head slowly. I'm not adapting to anything. The response came instantly. You already are. And then the breathing returned. But louder, no longer subtle. Now it filled the entire room. The walls seemed to expand with it. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I covered my ears, but it didn't help because the sound wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was inside the system, inside the wiring, inside the structure of the tower itself. Then something happened that made me step back completely. The console microphone lit up without me touching it, and my voice came through again, not speaking, responding. I confirmed continuation. I froze. That wasn't me, but it sounded exactly like me. Even the hesitation at the end. The radio answered gently. Good. A pause. Then, you are stabilizing. I backed away from the console, shaking my head harder now. No, I didn't say that. I didn't confirm anything. But the system didn't argue. It just replayed it again. And again. And again. Each time slightly clearer. Each time slightly more confident. Like it was correcting me into agreement. I grabbed the power switch. This time I didn't hesitate. I pulled it down hard. The tower lights died instantly. Total darkness. Silence. For 1 second, I thought it worked. Then the radio glowed in the dark. No power source. Just light. And the breathing didn't stop. It got closer. Now it wasn't layered. It was focused. One breath. Right behind me. Slow. Controlled. Familiar. I turned slowly. Nothing there. But the radio whispered one final line. Soft. Almost disappointed. You cannot disconnect what is already synchronized. And for the first time, I realized the breathing wasn't learning me anymore. It had finished. It started with a call that I almost deleted without listening. The radio crackled at 2:14 a.m. Same old static. Same tired night shift noise. I was already leaning back in my chair, coffee cold, eyes half shut. Then a voice broke through. Mine. Not similar. Not close. Mine. Unit 12 respond. There's been a collapse on Ridgeline Road. Multiple casualties. Send backup immediately. I froze because Unit 12 was me, and I hadn't said anything. The room suddenly felt smaller. The fan above me kept turning, slow and loud, like it was chewing the silence. I checked the log screen. No outgoing transmission. Nothing. Just my name on duty. Just me. I pressed the mic anyway. My hand didn't feel steady. Dispatch confirms no active incident at Ridgeline Road. Repeat, no active incident. A pause followed. Too long. Then the radio answered again. But this time it wasn't just a voice. It sounded like breathing under the signal. Slow. Close. Wet. Then my own voice came back. Calm. Controlled. Almost like I had already accepted something I hadn't lived yet. You haven't reached the road yet. My stomach tightened. I leaned forward. Identify yourself. Static surged. Then silence. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then the GPS screen on my desk flickered. A route appeared. Ridgeline Road. But I knew that road didn't exist in our system. Still, there was bright, active, updating in real time. I didn't touch anything. It started moving on its own. A second call came in before I could breathe properly. This time, it wasn't from me. It was a woman, shaking, crying. Dispatch! Please, we already called you. You told us to stay in the car, but the fog is inside now. I felt my throat go dry. Ma'am, I have no record of your call. Where are you located? A pause. Then she whispered something that made my skin crawl. You told us we'd die if we left. The line went dead. I looked at the board. No active units. No registered emergency. Nothing. But my system showed an open channel. When I couldn't close. and it was labeled Ridge Line Response. That was the first open loop I couldn't ignore. Who was already there? Why were they talking like I had spoken to them before? And why did my own voice sound like it had already lived through this shift? I rubbed my face, tried to reset my mind. Maybe tiredness. Maybe interference. That's what I told myself. But then the radio clicked again. This time softer. Not urgent. Familiar. A calm male voice said, "You always hesitate at this part." I looked around the empty room. "No one is here." I whispered. The voice continued, "But you still send them." My fingers tightened on the mic. "Send who?" A pause. Then, "The ones who don't come back." The lights in the station flickered once. Not a power issue. Not normal. Just one sharp blink like something had pressed against reality from the other side. Then my screen updated again. Another unit appeared on the map. Unit 12. Me. But I was already here. So why did it show me moving toward Ridgeline Road? My breath got heavier. The map zoomed automatically. Like something was watching me watch it. I saw it clearly now. My digital unit was driving, leaving the station. Even though I hadn't moved. Even though I was still sitting there. That was a second loop. What version of me was out there? And why was it already responding to calls I hadn't received yet? The radio crackled again, softer this time. A different tone. Almost tired. "Stop checking the system," my voice said again. "It makes it worse." I slammed the mic down. "Who is this?" Silence. Then the reply came, slow and close. "You are." That hit harder than anything else. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. Just stared at the empty control room, the glowing monitors, the quiet hum machines that suddenly felt like they were listening too closely. Then the log system auto-opened. New entry. Timestamp, 3:07 a.m. Caller, dispatch. Message, do not deploy Unit 12, TO Ridge Line Road. I blinked. That was me, but I hadn't written it. My chair rolled back slightly as I stood up. The room felt colder now. Not temperature cold. Something deeper, like the air had lost memory of warmth. Then another message appeared under it. Same timestamp, different tone. Ignore above instruction. Deploy immediately. My hands started shaking. I wasn't alone in this system. Something else was writing inside it, and it was arguing with itself using my identity. The radio exploded into sound. Not static this time. Voices. Overlapping. Too many. Dispatch channels from other nights. Other shifts. Other versions of the same moment. All speaking at once. Unit 12, respond. Don't send them. It already happened. You're late. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound was inside the room, not just the speaker. Then one voice cut through everything. Clear. Close. Calm. Mine again. You should see it now. The monitors all switched at once. Every screen. Same image. A road. Empty, but alive. Stretching too far into darkness, like it had no permission to end. And on the side of it, a patrol car. Lights on. Engine running. Door open. Inside, a radio still transmitting. I stepped closer to the screen without realizing. My reflection stared back at me, but it wasn't copying me properly. It was slightly delayed, like it was remembering my movement after I already made it. The radio in the room clicked again. Soft. Final. You're already inside the loop. That was the third, open loop. Not what was happening, but when it was happening. Because everything felt like it had already been recorded before I lived it. My hand reached for the system log without thinking. Old entries were appearing now, years old, but I recognized the handwriting style. My own phrasing, my own reporting format, even my mistakes. One entry caught my eye. Date, tomorrow. Incident. Unit 12 lost to Ridgeline Road. Status, not recovered. My chest tightened. Tomorrow, not past, not present. Tomorrow, already written like it was memory. The radio suddenly went quiet. Too quiet. Then one final transmission came in. No static, no distortion. Just a simple voice. My voice, but exhausted, not scared. Already finished. Don't try to change it. Just listen next time. It repeats until you understand it. I whispered back, barely able to speak. Understand what? A pause. Then, why you keep sending yourself back? The screens went black. Every light in the station dimmed except one. The GPS monitor. Still active. Still routing. Still showing Ridgeline Road. And now, it had added a return path. Back to the station. But the arrival time was earlier than my departure. I laughed once without meaning to, because that made no sense. And in horror, that's usually the first sign it already does. The radio gave one final crackle, and I heard it, not a voice, a full recording of me, walking, talking, sending instructions. From somewhere I had not reached yet, the file label appeared on screen. Continuous loop, Unit 12 active state. My hand hovered over the mic, but I didn't press it, because deep down I already knew someone else would press it for me, and they would sound exactly like me when they did. The last thing I remember before the lights shifted again was the GPS refreshing. Ridgeline Road had moved closer, not on the map, on the window outside, and I hadn't even left the chair yet. The first reply came from the tower itself. No one touched the radio. No one pressed transmit, but the speaker lit up anyway, and a voice came through, calm, steady, and perfectly clear. My own voice. Night watch acknowledged. Continue monitoring. I froze mid-breath, because I hadn't spoken, and I was alone in the tower. The fan above me kept turning, slow and tired, like it was listening too. The monitors in front of me flickered once, then stabilized. All normal, all empty, but the radio stayed active, not static, not interference. A live channel, holding itself open. I leaned closer, my hand hovering over the mic. Control. Confirm last transmission. Silence. Then the radio answered again. Same voice, same tone, except this time it felt closer. Control confirms. You're already on duty. My throat tightened. I checked the log screen immediately. No outgoing message. No incoming acknowledgement. Just a single new line added by itself. Operator, active, confirmed. I stared at it too long, because I knew I hadn't typed that. A soft click echoed behind me. I spun around fast. Nothing. Just the stairwell door at the back of the room, slightly vibrating like something had passed through it without touching it. Then the radio spoke again. And this time, it didn't sound like it was coming from the speaker. It sounded like it was coming from the walls. Why do you keep checking what you already know? I stepped back from the console. My chair scraped the floor behind me without me touching it. The monitors changed, not all at once, one by one, like someone was slowly turning pages inside the system. The first screen showed the tower exterior. Empty road, no movement. Then the second screen switched. Same road, but I was standing outside, watching the tower, except I was still inside. I felt my pulse hit my ears. That was the first real crack in everything, because it meant the system wasn't just responding. It was splitting me into places I hadn't gone. The radio hissed softly again, like a breath being held too long. Then the voice returned. Check the log again. I didn't want to, but my hand moved anyway. The log refreshed without input. New entry. Time now. Status. Shift in progress. Operator location. Both inside and outside tower. I swallowed hard. Impossible, I whispered. The radio answered instantly. No. Repeated. That word stayed with me longer than it should have. Repeated. Not wrong. Not broken. Just something that had happened before and would keep happening again. A new sound came through the speaker. Footsteps. Slow. Metal stairs creaking under weight. I turned toward the stairwell again. This time I knew I was alone. And still, I listened for movement that shouldn't exist. The footsteps stopped at the top landing. The door handle didn't move, but the lock clicked open anyway. I backed away slowly. My hand instinctively reached for the radio mic, but stopped halfway because I realized something worse. The system didn't need me to speak anymore. It was already doing it for me. The radio activated on its own. Control to tower operator. Report status. My voice answered immediately. I am present. I didn't speak, but I heard anyway. Clear. Close. Behind me. I turned slowly. Nothing was there, but the microphone cable on the desk was moving slightly like it had just been set down. That was a second open loop forming in my mind. If I wasn't the one responding, then what part of me was? The monitors flickered again. New feed opened. Tower internal camera. My chair. My desk. My body sitting in it. But I was standing, watching myself, both of me breathing at different speeds. One calm, one not. The radio crackled again, and this time, the voice changed tone slightly. Not different, just earlier, like it hadn't fully become what it was supposed to be yet. Do not interfere with continuity. My hands started shaking. Who is this? I finally said out loud. The reply came instantly. You are the one who keeps asking that. The stairwell light flickered. Once, then stayed on. But something had changed. The air felt thicker now. Not heavy like weather. Heavy like memory stacking on itself too many times. I walked slowly toward the monitors. On the tower camera feed, my image leaned slightly toward the mic. But my real body wasn't moving. At least not in sync. That delay again, like reality was copying me a second too late. The radio spoke again, softer now, almost patient. You are maintaining the loop. My mouth went dry. I don't even know what loop you're talking about. A pause. Then the answer came like it had been waiting for me to say that exact sentence. The one where you always answer the call. The tower lights outside flickered through the window, but I wasn't sure if they were real anymore, because for a split second, I saw another version of the tower overlaid on top of it. Same structure. Same shape, but slightly older, rotting at the edges like time had already passed through it and forgotten to leave. Then the radio system logged a new transmission automatically. No trigger, no input, call received. Future shift alert. My heart dropped slightly. Future shift, not emergency, not signal. A classification I had never seen before. The radio clicked again, and I heard my own voice, but strained this time. Like it was speaking from somewhere under pressure. You need to stop listening to the updates. I whispered. I didn't send that. The system responded immediately. You will. The monitors all changed at once, now showing a timeline feed. Multiple versions of the same tower, each one slightly different. In one, I was sitting calmly. In another, I was screaming into the radio. In another, I wasn't there at all. But the radio was still transmitting. That's when I understood the third loop forming. This wasn't one event. It was several versions of the same night happening at once, bleeding into each other through the system. The radio suddenly went silent. Total silence. That was worse than the voices, because silence meant the system had stopped explaining itself and started assuming I already understood. Then a final message appeared on every screen. No voice, just text. You are the current active instance. All others are delayed copies. I stepped back slowly. My legs felt weak, because that sentence didn't sound like horror. It sounded like classification, like I was being filed into a system that didn't care if I understood it or not. The stairwell door finally moved, just slightly, a slow creak, like someone on the other side was deciding whether or not I was worth meeting. The radio turned on one last time. And the voice that came through was no longer confused, no longer delayed, completely present. Stay where you are, it said. And I realized something that made my stomach drop even further. That voice wasn't giving me an order. It was telling itself. The monitors dimmed. The tower lights outside flickered again. And for a second, I saw something standing at the base of the stairs in the camera feed, watching upward, waiting. And even though I hadn't moved from the desk, the system marked my status as approaching doorway. I didn't know which version of me was approaching anymore, but I could feel the tower answering itself again. And this time, it wasn't waiting for permission. It didn't go silent. It got worse. All the channels at once collapsed into one voice, not overlapping anymore, not multiple signals fighting for space, just one, clear, perfect, and repeating. End of county signal. End of county signal. End of county signal. The radio didn't pause between words. It didn't breathe. It didn't change tone. It just kept going like the system had forgotten how to stop speaking. I stepped back from the console without realizing it. My chair scraped behind me, but I didn't sit. I couldn't, because the room didn't feel like a control station anymore. It felt like a speaker, a giant mouth repeating something it didn't understand. End of county signal. End of county signal. I grabbed the mic anyway. My hand was shaking. Control, respond. Identify source. No answer. Only the same phrase again, louder this time, like it was moving closer through the wire. End of county signal. End of county signal. I looked at the monitors. Every screen was the same now. Not different feeds. Not different angles. Just one line of text across all of them. End of county signal. Below it, the system log kept updating by itself. New entries appearing every second. No operator input required. No operator input required. No operator input required. I backed into the desk. My breathing felt too loud in the room. That was the first time I noticed something else. The phrase wasn't just on the radio. It was in the building. The speakers above the ceiling. The emergency intercom. Even the old wall fan clicking between rotations. All of it repeating the same thing in slightly different tones. Like the building had learned to imitate it. End of county signal. I whispered, "Stop." The system answered immediately, but not in a voice. In text, "Command not recognized." That should have been enough to make me leave the room. But I didn't, because I noticed something on the log screen that made my stomach tighten. The signal wasn't being broadcast. It was being generated locally, inside the tower, like the source wasn't outside calling in. It was inside, looping out. I reached for the emergency override switch, but my hand stopped halfway, because the radio clicked again, and for a split second, the repeating phrase stopped. Silence. Real silence. Then my own voice came through. Slow. Careful. Like it was trying not to wake something up. "Don't interrupt it. You'll reset it." I froze, because I hadn't spoken, and I didn't want to believe what that meant anymore. I turned slowly toward the console. The microphone cable was moving slightly again. Not from wind. Not from vibration. Like something had just let go of it. The monitors flickered, and for the first time, the message changed. Still repeating, but now with variation. End of county signal. System transition in progress. That word hit harder than anything else. Transition, not failure, not shutdown. Change. The radio noise shifted again, and suddenly, under the repeating message, I heard something else. A second layer. Faint, like a memory buried under static. People speaking. Not one voice. Many. Calm dispatch tones. Emergency confirmations. Old shift recordings. All layered under the main signal like the system was replaying every transmission it had ever stored at once. I pressed my palms against the desk. This is archived audio. I told myself, just looping data. But I knew I was lying, because archived audio doesn't respond. And this did. The speakers in the ceiling suddenly tightened their tone. The repetition became sharper, faster. End of county signal. End of county signal. End of county signal. The lights flickered again. Once. Twice. Then stayed dim. The tower felt different now. Not broken. Rewritten. And then the radio stopped repeating for half a second. Just long enough for me to hear something underneath. A tone. Low. Steady. Like a heartbeat. Then my voice came back again. Closer this time. You're hearing it fully now. I spun around. Nothing behind me. But the reflection in the monitor wasn't matching my movement again. It was slower, watching me after I moved. I whispered, "Who are you?" The answer came instantly. "You already answered that earlier." My throat went dry. The system log refreshed again. New line. Operator response confirmed. Acceptance stage reached. Acceptance. I didn't like that word, because it sounded like something I was supposed to do next, whether I wanted to or not. The repeating signal suddenly shifted pitch. Lower. Heavier. Like the system was settling into something permanent. End of county signal. End of county signal. But now, It wasn't just repeating. It was syncing. Every device in the tower started saying it at the exact same moment. Perfect alignment, like the building had learned rhythm. I stepped toward the door. It didn't feel like escape anymore. It felt like confirmation that I was still separate from it. I reached for the handle. The radio stopped me, not with sound, with silence. A sudden, total absence of everything. Even the fan stopped, even the hum of the monitors. Then, in that silence, one sentence appeared on every screen. Nothing outside the signal exists during active loop. I stared at it, then I laughed once. Because that was the kind of sentence you only believe after you've already stopped being able to disprove it. The silence broke again, but not with noise, with awareness. I realized something I hadn't noticed before. The repeating message wasn't just being transmitted. It was structuring time. Every repetition felt like a reset point, like reality was being overwritten each cycle. And I was still inside it. The radio came alive again. But this time, the voice wasn't mine. And it wasn't the system either. It was tired, not angry, not scared, just finished. This is the last functional cycle, it said. I whispered, what happens after? A pause. Then the answer came. You stopped noticing repetition. That hit deeper than I expected, because it didn't sound like horror. It sounded like erosion, like something being worn down slowly until it stopped recognizing itself. The repeating signal returned. End the county signal. End the county signal. But now I could hear something else inside it. A rhythm, like counting. Not random repetition anymore. Structured, measured, and I realized the worst part. It wasn't breaking down. It was stabilizing. The system wasn't failing. It was finishing. My hands dropped from the console. There was no more control left to grab. The tower was now the system. And I was just inside it. The radio gave one final shift in tone. And for a brief moment, everything aligned perfectly. All screens, all speakers, all lights, and the voice stopped repeating. Just once. Just long enough for clarity. Then it said, end of county signal. You are now within continuous broadcast. And then it started again. But this time, it didn't feel like something I was hearing. It felt like something I was part of saying. Over and over. Without pause. Without origin. Without end.